Hello everyone, and welcome back to our series, What If Ash Left After the Orange Islands? This is the series where we explore what the Pokemon anime may have looked like if Ash was replaced as the main character after the Orange Island saga, and we got new protagonists every new generation. Last time, we looked at the Johto saga through the eyes of our new protagonist, Jimmy, and this time, we'll be taking a new journey through the Hoenn region. If you haven't seen the previous episode, I recommend checking things out since there will be a few references to it, but overall, it's not necessary in the grand scheme of things. I'll also link the original video where I discuss this concept. Now, let's get started. Our story begins as our brand new protagonist, a young girl named May, watches fellow Johtoian Jimmy make a speech about his recent loss in the Johto League Silver Conference. Her family just moved from Johto to the Hoenn region, and she's re-watching this match on TV in her new room. She'd seen the battle live right before their move, but had wanted to revisit it and had replayed the video over and over during the entire travel. You see, she'd been rooting for the trainer to win, but sadly he only made it to the top 8 before being eliminated. Though May isn't yet a trainer herself, she believes she'd found all of Jimmy's mistakes and feels she could make it all the way to the finals of the league if she was a trainer. But meanwhile, May's house still hasn't been fully fixed up with her family's belongings. Being that she isn't used to the new place and doesn't want to get in the way of the movers, she decides to take a walk. She walks around a long distance, constantly getting distracted and excited by new Pokemon, and unfortunately, she eventually gets lost. While trying to find her way back, she stumbles upon a grown man and 2 young boys being attacked by multiple wild Pokemon. The man introduces himself as Professor Birch, and the boys as his sons, Brendan and Max. He says the Pokemon that are attacking them are called Zigzagoon and Poochyena. May actually finds the Pokemon cute, and is shocked that these 3 guys seem afraid of them. Still, Birch says that he really needs help, and he has 3 Pokemon in a nearby bag that should be able to at least scare these aggressive Pokemon away. May, still confused, decides to help the group out. She grabs a random Pokeball, and the Pokemon she sends out winds up being a Mudkip. As she's watched Pokemon trainers like Jimmy on TV for a while now, she knows how to command a Pokemon in battle. Despite only just meeting and being outnumbered, Mudkip responds to her commands perfectly. After easily beating the wild Pokemon, Birch, Brennan, and Max thank and compliment May on her battle skills. May tells them it was nothing, but is more focused on befriending the Mudkip, saying she wishes she had her own Pokemon, as she's really wanted to become a trainer for a while now. She recently just watched one of her native region's Pokemon League conferences and wishes she could participate in one. Brennan becomes excited upon hearing this, and Birch says that if May truly wants to participate in a Pokemon League, that he can help her out, since he is the regional professor after all. They just need to go over to his lab. So May agrees to go with Brendan, Max, and Birch. At the lab, May contacts her mom and explains the situation. The woman is shocked to hear what happened with her daughter, but happy to hear that she'll be heading out on a journey. Once the conversation concludes, Birch allows May to keep the Mudkip, which she nicknames Kipper, or something like that. The point is, May will be our first protagonist, aka not a side character like Marina, who nicknames her Pokemon. I won't go over all the nicknames here for reasons you'll understand later, but you're free to leave your suggestions in the comments. Birch gives May a Pokédex so she can register for the league, and also learn more about Hoenn Pokemon. Max then proposes that Brendan travel with her on her journey, since he actually is working on a special assignment for their dad, which is to complete the Pokédex. Brendan blushes with embarrassment as Max says this, but May is fine with it, since she's new to the region while Brendan is a native, so she figures he'd be a good guide for them. With that, Brendan and May agree to travel together. May's goal is officially to participate in a Pokemon League and get farther than her current inspiration, Jimmy. Brendan's goal is to complete the Pokédex for his father and learn more about Pokemon's habitats. Brendan is also given a Pokemon from his father, which is a Trico. The Trico quickly climbs on Brendan's shoulder and seems happy to be with him. The boy then reveals that he actually spawned with his Pokemon as his dad was preparing it for his future trainer, so he's happy to have it as his partner. Before leaving, Brendan and Max share a hug, and Brendan tells his little brother to help take care of all the incoming Pokemon that he catches, which Max says he'll certainly do. Max also reminds Brendan to use his Pokénav if they ever get lost, and Brendan thanks his brother for the reminder. Right before the duo head off, a boy named Wally, who's actually a friend of Brendan and Max, arrives at the lab, as he was set to pick up his first Pokemon today. Bert apologizes and says that he completely forgot, and that due to recent events, he only has one left now, which is a Torchic. But Wally's perfectly fine with this. He thinks the walking chicken nugget is adorable, and is fine making it his starter. Torchic likewise happily cuddles up to her new trainer. Brendan asks Wally what his plans are, but he says that as for now, he isn't sure. Max says that Brandon will be traveling around with a cool girl from Johto, referring to May, and that Wally should go with them. Brendan remains embarrassed by his brother's antics, but he formally asks their friend if he would like to journey with him and May, and Wally agrees, thinking it would be fun to travel with his friend. The kids bid Max and the professor farewell and hit the road. As they begin their travels, Brendan and Wally ask May why her family moved to Hoenn, and she explains that it's because her father just recently became the gym leader of Pelberg City, and the boys are shocked that she took so long to mention that her father was a gym leader. May says that she hadn't seen her dad much recently since he took on this new job, but really admires him and wants to defeat him in battle the next time she sees him. She is aware how strong he is though, so she wants to win a few badges before challenging him. May explains that she spent countless days watching the recent Johto League Silver Conference, but that the trainer she wished to win wound up losing sooner than she expected, and now she wants to surpass him and make it to the quarterfinals at least. Wally says that Brennan and May are so lucky that their parents have jobs that relate so closely to Pokemon. He says he's never been able to spend that much time with Pokemon because he was so sickly growing up, and his parents never let him get too close to any Pokemon. He wishes that he can learn to work well with his own Pokemon in the future. And May tells him that she's sure he'll become a great trainer. Since Brendan wants to complete the Pokédex, he catches a lot of Pokemon early on, and this encourages May to do the same. It's something she'd actually already planned on doing. May explains to the boys that one of the reasons she felt Jimmy couldn't win the Johto League was because he didn't have a wide range of Pokemon to use. She noticed how tired his same 6 Pokemon looked from battle to battle, so she feels that with more Pokemon to pick from, she'd fare better in the league. May actually makes it her mission to raise a large team of Pokemon for the Hoenn Evergrande Conference. So unlike Jimmy, May and Brendan will rotate captures around frequently, making them the first characters in the Sakura alternate universe to do so. That said, for this video, we're mainly going to focus on May's team. The group makes their way through routes 102 and 103, and here, May will catch Zigzagoon, Shroomish, Tailo, and Poochyena. Brendan also fills up his Pokédex in nearly the same way, along with more captures in the area, such as 2 Wurmple. But he winds up sending most of these Pokemon back to his father to research with Max. Wally, on the other hand, only makes 1 capture, which is a Ralts. The shy Pokemon befriends them while they're having lunch, so he captures it, without even needing a battle. He and Torchic become close friends really quickly. The trio also comes across an anime-exclusive town where they run into a Pokemon coordinator and learn about Pokemon contests and Pokeblocks. While May and Brendan only express casual interest, Wally becomes really invested in them and begs the other two if they can watch their performance. They agree, and once there, Wally becomes smitten. He can't take his eyes off the coordinators and their beautiful combinations. Even the battle rounds impress him. May likewise has never seen Pokemon battle so elegantly. The only time she saw something similar was that Pokemon Idol Girl from the Johto League. Regardless, the trio leaves with Wally, Torchic, and Ralts having grown a fondness for Pokemon contests. The kids reach Westboro City rather quickly, and they learn that there is a gym in town. Once they arrive, they become aware that Gym Leader Roxanne uses rock types. May is eager to challenge her, as she figures she has enough Pokemon to counter rock types. Roxanne tells the new trainer that she'll happily take her challenge in a 2-on-2 battle. Mudkip is first for May, and her water type attacks make quick work of Roxanne's Geodude, though she does take a bit of damage from rollout. Still, Roxanne is impressed by the rookie trainer's skills. Nosepass is sent out next, and May is sure that this will be easy as well. Mudkip battles her hardest, striking with several water guns, but sadly she falls after becoming paralyzed by Thunder Wave and pummeled with Rock Tomb. May is a bit surprised, but isn't too fazed by this, and Shroomish is her next choice for battle. Nosepass is a powerful battler, and her attacks hit just as hard, giving Shroomish a hard time, but thankfully her Mega Drain attacks are plenty strong enough to deal damage to Nosepass and restore her own health. Nosepass eventually goes down, giving Shroomish the win. May thus earns her badge without too much issue, and this win causes her to become overly confident in herself right off the bat, gloating that she's a prodigy trainer. This attitude annoys Brendan. He claims that the gym leader didn't seem so strong and that he could easily win. He even challenges Roxanne himself with his Trico, but he winds up losing, not even realizing that his Trico didn't even know any grass type attacks. And this only makes May brag even more about her win and her skills. After leaving the gym, at Brendan's request, the kids decide to check out the Devon Corporation. Here, the gang learns about the new Pokeballs created by the company. This excites Brendan as he really wants to use lots of different types of Pokeballs as he makes his captures. The gang buy a good amount of new Pokeballs with the reward money May got for defeating Roxanne. Let's just say that reward Pokemon exists in this anime AU and not ask any questions. But while in the middle of making their purchases, a strange group called Team Aqua bursts inside, raids the building, and tries to kidnap the CEO, Mr. Stone. The kids thus decide to help out. May is able to defeat many of the Aqua Grunts with her Zigzagoon and Talo battling against the Grunts Poochyena and Zubat. Wally really struggles against the Grunts, but Brennan comes to his rescue with Trico, who's able to learn Bullet Seed after putting up a good fight against the enemy water types. The Grunts flee once they have no Pokemon left who can battle. Mr. Stone also thanks them for their help by awarding them with a bunch of expensive luxury balls for free. After that, without much left to do, the kids mosey along. Upon reaching Dewford Town, May and Brennan decide to make a few more captures. May adds a Mawile and Wingull to her lineup, giving her a full team very early on. But from here, she'll rotate her new and old captures around, and they'll probably vary in every episode. I'll try to replicate this as best I can through her team list on the side. Brennan is only keeping Trico and a Makuhita he recently caught on his permanent team for now. May really wants to head to the gym, but Wally on the other hand wants to compete in a local contest. May and Brennan remember how much Wally enjoyed watching the contest a while back, and are happy that he's chosen to participate. He practices contest combinations just like the ones he observed in the first contest. With Torchic's beautiful fire-type moves and Ralts' smart psychic attacks, he creates some beautiful-looking combinations. Meanwhile, May and Brennan take the time to have some practice battles, with May's Pokemon being the clear stronger ones between the two. The next day is Wally's contest debut. He and his Pokemon are nervous, but they try to give it everything they've got. With it being his first contest, Wally sadly doesn't make it too far. He makes it through the appeal rounds with Ralts, but Torchic winds up losing in Wally's first battle round. But despite the loss, Wally isn't too upset, since he winds up learning a lot about contest appeals and battles. He and his Pokemon vow to do better the next time. He also receives some advice from a coordinator who advises him to use Pokeblocks to improve his Pokemon's condition, which he agrees to do moving forward. By the way guys, we're not going to be following the game or canon anime's contest rules 100% to a T here, just because I want more freedom and control for interesting scenarios. Even though double performance appeals didn't exist until the Gen 4 anime, I want to show them here, mainly since Gen 3 introduced double battles anyway, so I feel like we should have had double appeals and battles as an option right from the start. Also, Wally can use all of his Pokemon across all rounds, instead of having to stick with just one. After leaving the contest hall, the trio learns that the local gym leader is the fighting-type user Brawly, so May feels like the battle will be another easy one. After all, she has two flying types, Wingull and Talo, to use. Despite using Pokemon with a type advantage, May's overconfidence gets the better of her, and she winds up losing the battle. Wingull is pummeled into the ground by Makuhita, and Meditite stuns May by using psychic powers to get the victory over Talo. May is gravely upset by her loss, as she can't understand how she could have failed. But Brennan tells her that she can't just win on type alone. She needs to make sure her Pokemon are well trained, since gym leaders are very skilled. He realized that when he had that battle against Roxanne. May realizes that she needs to work more with her Pokemon, so she takes the time to train with them with Brendan for a few days before going back for a rematch. Since she has a lot of Pokemon, she also has her own Pokemon battle each other so they can all become stronger for future battles. In doing this, her Shumish evolves into Breloom during Z training, against the battle with Brennan's Makuhita. In fact, Brennan's Makuhita is a big help in prepping May for the rematch, in having to take on Brawly's Makuhita once more. Wingull and Talo are eventually able to hold their own against him, and May is ready for her rematch. During her rematch, May once again starts with her Wingull, but Brawly starts with Meditite. Meditite lands a lot of hard hits with Confusion and Focus Punch, but Wingull has built up his defenses and can withstand the blows. He's able to win with a well-timed wing attack. Unfortunately, when Makuhita comes out, Wingull is too weak to take much more, and after hitting a few water guns and a single wing attack, he goes down. May's Talo is her last Pokemon, and things are looking rough. While Talo can hit hard, Makuhita is very bulky, and takes Talo's attacks really well, while striking hard with his own hard hits. When Brawly surprises everyone with a fire punch from Makuhita, May thinks it's over, especially after Talo becomes burned. But Talo shocks everyone when she strikes back with her peck attack, and Makuhita takes much more damage than before. Brawly explains that May's Talo must have Guts as an ability, which powers the Pokemon when it has a status condition. May makes a mental note about this, and commands Talo to go all out, hitting more attacks. The bird unleashes a flurry of strong attacks, faster than Makuhita can dodge, and thanks to her power boost, she is able to take the leader's Pokemon out with a final peck. May praises Talo for the win, and the little bird is proud to have won a gym battle for her trainer. After receiving her badge, May once again thanks Brennan for helping her out with training. After her win, the kids run into a gang of Team Magma members along the way to the next gym. Team Magma is destroying a local landmark while looking for a meteorite. This infuriates the trainers, especially Brendan, who is upset at seeing Pokemon habitats being destroyed. Naturally, they try to stop them. May uses her own Poochyena against many of the Grunt's Poochyena and fights them off valiantly. Mawile is also able to put in a lot of work battling as well. Brendan's Pokemon are able to hold off the enemies as well. While being attacked by Grunts, Brawly has trouble battling against them. Torchic is doing okay, but Ralph's not so much. He's taking a hard beating from the Dark-type enemy Pokemon. The other Pokemon do their best to defend him, but they're getting hurt as well. And Ralph is horrified, seeing the other Pokemon take so much damage while trying to protect him. Wally calls out to the injured creature, and in his desperation to protect his friends, Ralph evolves into a Kirlia. From here, he can use his newfound strength and psychic abilities to defeat the Grunt Pokemon. Wally is thrilled over his first evolution and hopes Kirlia's new powers will help them perform better in Pokemon contests. Well, soon the kids make their way to Verdanturf Town, where another Pokemon contest is being held. Of course, Wally wants to enter. Wally trains day and night with his team of 2, and the 3 of them are more confident in their capabilities. With his now evolved Kirlia, he creates a more advanced appeal in the first round of the contest, and succeeds to the battle rounds. With stronger Pokemon, Wally actually winds up making it through all of the battle rounds and reaches the finals. Wally's Torchic struggles when battling the opposing coordinator's Vicious Cacnea. She is nearly defeated, but in her desperate desire to win for Wally, she learns Fire Spin and defeats her opponents with the powerful attack. The other coordinator, named Harley, says Wally's win was cheap and vows to beat him next time. Wally is awarded his first ribbon and even receives a Pokemon egg as a special prize, and the group moves on. Brendan continues his catching spree outside of Marvale City and adds many new entries to his Pokédex. May, on the other hand, decides to cool off on the captures for now and focuses more on getting her Pokemon stronger, as she started to wonder if maybe with so many captures, her Pokemon haven't been getting as much individual attention and training as they could be. She has her Pokemon battle each other on and off, and they all power up well. All of her Pokemon have become much more agile as well, and May feels this will help her out. Well, sadly, she loses her next gym battle once again, as her chosen Pokemon, Poochyena, Breloom, and Mawile, really don't have too many attacks which can defeat Watson's electric and steel types. Poochyena falls quickly after an onslaught of electric attacks from Magneton. Breloom fares a bit better, but still falls as she only has a few weak grass-type attacks. Mawile actually manages to hold her own for a while and defeats Magneton and later Voltorb, but still goes down to a flamethrower from Watson's main neck trick. And this loss destroys May's confidence. 2 gym losses in a row really takes a toll on her. May starts wondering if maybe she was wrong, and she just isn't cut out to be a trainer. But Wally tells her to not give up and to just try again. After all, he lost his first contest a while back, but he learned from his loss and was able to get his first ribbon in Verdanturf. And May did the same in her rematch against Brawly. Brendan also recommends teaching her Pokemon new moves. After all, he was able to do better as they battled Team Aqua once his Trico finally learned Bullet Seed. May agrees, so she trains a bit with Brendan, and their Mudkip and Trico have a practice battle with each other. During this practice battle, both Pokemon wind up evolving. Marshtomp runs Mudchip after evolution, and May thinks this will be a great benefit against Watson. Still, in the practice battle, Marshtomp loses after taking a brand new Leaf Blade from Grovyle. But May isn't upset, as she feels the evolution itself was a victory, and she thanks Brendan for his help. Breloom also learns Sky Uppercut after a battle against Makuhita. May later buys a TM to teach Poochyena Dig. So yeah guys, we're gonna say that TMs exist in the anime now, just like Pokemon Origins. But if you don't like that idea, let's just say May trained her Pokemon to use the move. For her rematch, May decides to change up her lineup slightly. Watson starts with Voltorb, and Poochyena is out first for May. She is able to now put up a better fight thanks to having Dig. Double Team also works to confuse Voltorb, and a combination of the 2 moves takes the Pokemon down without too many issues. Watson uses his main neck trick next to paralyze Poochyena, and despite still getting off a strong Dig, she goes down to the Electric Wolf's Thunderbolt. Marshtomp is next, and thanks to her new immunity to electric-type moves, she easily puts May Neck Trick out of commission. Magneton is last, and May thinks this will be an easy win. After all, this Pokemon has a double weakness to ground-type attacks. She calls for a Mud Shot, but Magneton is fast enough to dodge and hits a Hidden Power, which seems to do a huge hit to Marshtomp. This is a move May's father taught her about. It's a move that changes type depending on the Pokemon uses it. Since the attacks seem to do so much to Marshtomp, May fears it's a Grass-type move, so she has Marshtomp try to avoid it with Protect. Marshtomp hints out a few Mud Shots, which do heavy damage, but Magneton's Hidden Power and Tri-Attack deal major damage to Marshtomp, and she goes down. May decides to send in Breloom last. Thanks to Marshtomp, Magneton has taken a huge amount of damage, so Breloom is in a good position. She's able to hit Leech Seed to sap a huge chunk of Magneton's health. When Magneton hits a strong Thunderbolt, May has Breloom rush in with her brand new Sky Uppercut attack. The Thunderbolt hits, but since it's not too effective, Breloom just charges straight through, and her attack slams the trio of magnets into the ceiling, knocking them out. Wattson applauds May on the great battle after learning so much from her previous loss, and awards her the Dynamo badge. And now, I'd say it's movie time. There were actually 4 movies during the Gen 3 saga, so we've got to start quickly. Our first movie of this series will be Jirachi Wishmaker, with May taking Ash's original role and Wally taking Max's. Additionally, instead of Butler creating some freaky weird gelatin Groudon thing, he's going to summon a real one to cause havoc. You're going to see why much later. The movie will basically play out the same minus those changes, so let's move on. After May's Mauville win, the kids continue their travels. Brendan takes the time to make a few more captures for his Pokédex, and May figures that she can add a few more Pokemon to her team as well. After all, she knows she'll need a strong roster to battle her father, who she plans to challenge soon. She wants to add at least one more badge though, before taking him on. While trekking through a forest, she runs across a particularly strong Slackoth. It's a Pokemon she's very familiar with, as it's one her dad has. And this Slackoth, unlike most, is actually rather rowdy and aggressive. May wants to show her father that she can train the same type of Pokemon he specializes in, just as well as he can, so she wants to catch it. She uses Poochyena to battle it, but Slackoth proves itself to be quite powerful, impressing May even more. Poochyena struggles, but in her drive to win for May, she evolves into Mightyena. With a powerful new Crunch attack, Mightyena is able to weaken Slackoth enough for May to catch it. May is thrilled to have this new strong Pokemon and wants to start working with it right away, so they head to a Pokemon Center. And it's while rotating her Pokemon at a Pokemon Center that May realizes that she's not battled with her Zigzagoon much at all. She knows she can't risk slacking on training any of her Pokemon, so she adds it to her team and begins a serious training mission. Anytime she comes across a trainer who wants to battle, she makes sure to use Zigzagoon. She also has Zigzagoon train against her other Pokemon along with Brennan and Wally's. In doing so, the little raccoon becomes a lot stronger very quickly. In a practice battle against it and Wally's Torchic, he shows great strength by being able to deal heavy damage to the little chicken. But Torchic pushes herself to win through Wally's encouraging calls, and she evolves into Combuskin. A newly learned Mega Kick gives her the win over Zigzagoon, much to Wally's delight. In a random episode, the kids come across a mischievous Plusle and Minun duo. After some shenanigans, Brennan catches the Plusle while Wally catches the Minun, each in a nest ball. Brennan decides to keep Plusle in his party, and it rides on his shoulder. Meanwhile, Wally allows Minun to travel around on his head. Along Route 111, Wally enters another Pokemon contest, but despite the recent power boost to his team, he loses to a talented coordinator named Drew in one of the battle rounds. May tells Wally that even though his performance skills have become really good, he should also make sure that his Pokemon are still strong battlers as well. Wally does realize that he'd not been as focused on his Pokemon's battle strength as much as their performance skills. So after this loss, he works more on his Pokemon's battling capabilities, training with May and Brendan. His Pokemon egg hatches into a Skitty soon after, and Wally is overjoyed to have another adorable Pokemon on his contest team. Skitty is very playful and energetic, and gets along well with Wally's other Pokemon right off the bat. The group goes to train on Mount Chimney, where they run into Team Aqua and Magma again, who are actually battling each other and demanding the opposing group to not interfere with their mission. Here, they also meet admins Courtney and Matt, along with the organization leaders Maxie and Archie. The battling teams are causing a lot of damage to the mountain, not to mention the surrounding wild Pokemon, and Brendan is furious to see the Pokemon's habitats being disrupted. So the kids decide they have no choice but to battle them, to get them to leave. Brendan defeats admin Courtney while using his Makuhita, and it evolves into Hariyama after beating her Mightyena. Wally meanwhile defeats the Team Aqua admin Matt's water types thanks to Minun. Despite being young, Skitty attempts to battle a few opponents as well, using Assist to attack with her teammates' moves. But the other Pokemon around make sure to keep her safe during the brawl. Maxie and Archie both send out their Camerupt and Sharpedo to do battle, but the trio send out all their Pokemon in retaliation. With so many Pokemon battling against them, the bosses eventually face defeat, with Brendan's Grovyle defeating Archie's Sharpedo and May's Marshtomp taking down Maxie's Camerupt. The leaders thus have no choice but to eventually retreat with their respective lackeys. As they run off, Brendan vows to stop their evil plans and protect the habitats of Hoenn's Pokemon, just like his father would want. Right before the kids leave, Brendan notices a wild Torkoal, which seems to have gotten caught in the crossfire and is noticeably injured, so he catches it so he can get it some healing at a Pokemon Center. After getting a full recovery, the Torkoal seems really emotional and happy over being saved, and it cries loudly while hugging Brendan. Brennan asks if the little crybaby tortoise would like to come along with him, and it agrees, so he adds it to his active team, catching it in a timer ball. Days later, the group makes it to Lavaridge Town, where May's next gym opponent is Flannery. May has a few good options to pick from, so she goes into the battle with confidence, but also remains level-headed. Flannery starts with her Slugma, named Meg, and May goes with her Tailo. Tailo fights hard with Aerial Ace, but Meg's Flamethrower and Body Slam hit tremendously hard. When Meg goes for Smog, it winds up poisoning Tailo. At first, May is concerned, but she quickly remembers that Tailo's ability is Guts. Thanks to said ability, she gets the power-up she needs to beat Slugma with a powered-up Facade. Flannery sends her Macargo, named Mag, in next, and sadly, Tailo can't do much to the Rock type, even with Guts, and she falls to a Rock Slide. Wingull is May's next choice, and at first it seems that Mag is able to handle his Water Gun with few issues. Wingull gets blasted with endless flamethrowers and super effective Rock Slides, so May calls for Wingull to attack at full power. The small bird pushes through, and at the last minute, his Water Gun turns into Water Pulse, which is strong enough to take Mag down. Flannery's Torkoal is her last choice, and though Water Pulse is powerful, she blasts the exhausted Wingull out of the battle with Sludge Bomb. Marshtomp is May's final Pokemon, and while she has the type advantage, Flannery is no joke, and the Mudfish struggles at first. But in this battle, Flannery actually becomes overconfident, and starts using Overheat over and over in an attempt to finish off Marshtomp quickly. And though the attack is strong, Kipper... Yeah, that's Marshtomp's name, remember? Kipper resists it, and the attack gets weaker over time. She starts hammering away with numerous water and ground type attacks. After a long battle, both Pokemon are exhausted, but a strong close-range Mudshot takes Torkoal down to give May the win and her Heat Badge. May now realizes that good preparation and not getting overconfident is the key to winning battles. The kids venture off, ready to continue their journey. On the road, Wally competes in another contest in an anime-exclusive location, and he encounters Harley and Drew again. He's able to reach the battle rounds, where he defeats Harley Shuppet with his new Minun, whose cool electric attacks overpower the Ghost. When it's time for him to battle Drew in the finals, the battle is his Combuskin versus Drew's Masquerain. During the match, Wally becomes so obsessed with battling intensely and beating Drew that he forgets about making sure his moves look appealing. This causes him to lose a lot of points, but he also deals heavy damage to Drew's Pokemon. As such, Drew ends up fighting back with everything he has just to stay in the competition. The battle is tough, but the coordinators actually wind up knocking each other's Pokemon out for a draw. As such, both are given a ribbon, but neither are pleased by it. Wally is disappointed that he let his desire to win get so out of hand that he forgot what being a coordinator is all about, so he makes it his mission to do better next time. He needs to focus not just on beauty and cuteness, but also toughness in order to win, but he needs to focus on them all equally. By the time the gang has decided to head to Pelberg for a battle against May's father, Norman, she has caught so many Pokemon that it becomes harder and harder to make selections for her battles. This battle will be against her dad, though, and it'll be one of the most important yet. He's one of the strongest people she knows, and yet she has so many Pokemon that haven't battled much yet. Since she hasn't used Mawile since her first match against Wattson, she feels it's time to give her another official battle. She also wants to try out her new Slack-Off against her father's, since he also hasn't battled too much. For her last choice, she goes with Mightyena, as she wants to make sure she has a reliable Pokemon who has some gym battle experience. May reunites with her father on the battlefield, and he tells his daughter that he's looking forward to a great battle. Norman starts out with Slack-Off, and May ends up using her own, but since hers hasn't trained as much, he ends up struggling a lot in battle, despite his aggressive personality. It also doesn't help that Norman's Slack-Off has a unique way of battling, dodging attacks slowly and then striking back when the opponent least expects it. So May's Slack-Off ends up losing to Norman's. She sends out Mawile next, and Slack-Off just can't do much to the Steel type and eventually faints to a vain attack, though not before tiring Mawile out. Norman sends out Vigoroth next, and the Pokemon hits hard with Slash, but once again, being a Steel type means Mawile resists the attack and can strike back easily. May thinks this will be another easy win until her father has Vigoroth use Flamethrower. The super effective attack shocks May and Mawile, and the Pokemon has pretty much nothing she can do to counter this. Mawile goes down rather quickly after being blasted by the flames. At this point, May considers forfeiting the match, seeing not much reason to go on with the odds against her, but she still wants to try, so she sends in Mightyena. Mightyena and Vigoroth's trade hits back and forth, and in the end, Mightyena only just barely gets the win, but she's exhausted. Norman sends out his Slacking, and all it takes is a single Focus Punch to get the win to take out Mightyena. May realizes that she severely underestimated how difficult this battle would be. While healing her Pokemon at the Pokemon Center, she knows she's nowhere near ready to challenge her dad again anytime soon. May decides that she needs to seriously train up her Pokemon. Since they're so close to Little Root Town, May makes the choice to head over to Professor Birch's lab, where all of her Pokemon are being held to train them all at the same time. Wally admires this choice by May, and after his disappointing recent contest performance, he decides to take this time to stay in Pelberg City to practice his contest combinations. He also needs to give Skitty more battle experience. Brendan, on the other hand, decides to spend a few days going through Pelberg Woods to make some more Pokemon captures. This will probably be a small 6-episode arc, with each trainer having 2 episodes to work on furthering their goals. At the lab, May has all of her Pokemon battle each other in order to get everyone on the same level. In addition to getting her Pokemon physically stronger, she also teaches them a few new moves as well, with some TMs. May also decides to change up her lineup for the rematch, swapping out Mightyena for Zigzagoon. It sounds crazy, but she realizes that she needs to ensure that all of her Pokemon get gym battle experience, rather than relying on the same ones over and over. While training, May makes sure to give special focus to Zigzagoon and Slackoth, since they have the least amount of battle experience. During this training, Taillow and Wingull evolve during a sparring match against each other. Meanwhile, during his training, Wally realizes that all his Pokemon have their own talents and strengths. Curlia shows great intelligence in contests, Combuskin has her beautiful fire-type attacks, Minun exudes coolness, and Skitty is absolutely adorable. The 4 of them need to work with their specialties in order to ensure the best performances ever. Wally has all his Pokemon work and learn together to create gorgeous appeals, and then has them purely battle normally to strengthen their attack power. On the other hand, after reuniting with his younger brother at the lab, Brennan decides to take Max with him to Pelberg Woods to help him catch some more Pokemon. Gravol, Hariyama, Plusle, and Torkoal work together to add a lot of new captures to Brennan's roster. Max had also been able to get Brennan's Wurmple to evolve into Silcoon and Cascoon during their time at the lab, so Brennan takes them into the woods with him. While battling a wild Linoon, they evolve into Beautifly and Dustox. As they trek deeper into the woods, the kids encounter another group of Team Magma members, causing trouble to the wild Pokemon. Upon seeing them, Brennan naturally jumps in front of his brother to keep him safe, and gets into battle with the grunts. Torkoal in particular wants revenge. Sadly, the Pokemon becomes overwhelmed by his opponents quickly, and cries in fear, hiding in his shell. His teammates work to protect him, and in doing so, the little crybaby gains a bit more confidence. He gets out of his shell, and burns his opponents with a newly learned Heat Wave. The combined teamwork sends Team Magma packing, and Brennan wonders what on earth these people could be trying to accomplish. Regardless, he reemphasizes his mission to stop them, and Team Aqua to protect the Pokemon of the region and their habitats. After a few days of training, coordinating, and catching, May and the boys reunite back at the lab. Mag bids the trainer trio farewell, and promises to continue caring for Brennan and May's other Pokemon at the lab. May, Brennan, and Wally immediately head back to Pelberg City so May can have another attempt at getting her badge. As the battle begins, Norman starts off with his Slackoth again, and this time May decides to use her Zigzagoon first. This shocks Brennan and Wally since May had only just started training this Pokemon recently, but this was all part of May's plan, as Zigzagoon's erratic and unpredictable zigzag movements are the perfect counter to Slackoth's battling style. Slackoth will aim an attack in one direction, and Zigzagoon will simply dodge by immediately dashing in the opposite direction, and then slamming a powerful attack. The Sloth simply can't find a way to counter the crazy movements, so a few headbutts take Slackoth down before Zigzagoon can take much damage. Vigoroth is next, and May already knows what to expect. She swaps out Zigzagoon for Mawile. Norman uses his same tactics from the previous battle and orders a flamethrower, but May has Mawile use a new move, Protect, to completely avoid the damage. Norman is impressed, but then May pulls out another secret weapon. She orders Mawile to use another brand new move, Rain Dance. With rain now pouring on the battlefield, Vigoroth's flamethrower will do far less damage, so Norman decides to not bother with it, and Vigoroth goes in for a slash. But May has Mawile use Vice Grip, grabbing Vigoroth's arm with her jaws. Mawile slams Vigoroth onto the ground several times and then throws him into the gym walls. At this moment, as Vigoroth is struggling to stand, May swaps Mawile out for her Slackoth. Norman doesn't see the pre-evolved Pokemon as a threat, so he orders a powerful slash. The attack lands hard and does major damage, but this turns out to be to his detriment, as May commands counter. Slackoth delivers a powerful punch back at Vigoroth, knocking him out. Norman is stunned by this, as he can't believe how much better May is doing in this battle compared to last time. He's proud of his daughter, but still feels like he'll win. He sends out his strongest Pokemon, his Slacking. At this point, the Rain Dance ends as well. May has Slackoth use Secret Power, and while this does hit Slacking, the massive Pokemon seems to almost take no damage and strikes back with Earthquake. The small Pokemon flies through the air and hits the gym walls. Slackoth is unable to battle, so May sends Zigzagoon back in. Zigzagoon uses a strong Thunderbolt, though it seems to only just phase the loafing Slacking. Slacking uses a single Hyper Beam to take Zigzagoon down. May sends out Mawile as her last Pokemon, and Slacking needs to recharge before he can attack again, so May has Mawile go in for a close-ranged Vice Grip. Slacking only seems ever so slightly hurt, and once he's able to attack again, he uses Earthquake. But May blocks with Protect once again. Norman orders a Focus Punch, and Slacking punches the protective barrier numerous times. Eventually, the shield shatters, but right before Slacking can get in the final hit, he struggles to move. Norman, Brennan, and Wally are confused until electric sparks crackle across Slacking's body. May smirks, and Norman then realizes that Zigzagoon's Thunderbolt paralyzed Slacking. With Slacking unable to move, May has only one chance. She orders Mawile to use her final new move, a Focus Punch of her own. The move strikes Slacking in the stomach, and the giant behemoth topples over, defeated. May has defeated her father in a gym battle, and couldn't be happier. Norman commends his daughter on the amazing battle, and awards her the Balance Badge. He tells her that if she can defeat him, then she should have no issue defeating any other gym leaders. As the trio makes their way to another anime-exclusive town, Wally enters another contest. Harley appears here again, and wants revenge. Thanks to his training, Wally remembers to focus on his contest combinations and making sure his Pokemon perform well. As such, he makes it through the appeal rounds easily with Minun. Wally is excited to move forward, only to find out that the battle rounds of this contest are formatted as double battles, something he hadn't planned for and has little experience in. Thankfully, his Pokemon are used to working together through training and battling Team Magma and Team Aqua, so they're able to actually fare well. Wally uses all of his Pokemon throughout the rounds, and eventually, Combusken and Minun get him into the finals. Once again, Wally is battling Harley in the final round. The battle against Harley's Wigglytuff and now evolved Bayonet is tough, but Wally's chosen Skitty and Kirlia are able to hold their own. Bayonet faints after Kirlia hits his own Shadow Ball attack back at it with Psychic, making it a 2v1, and Wigglytuff just can't take down the other two Pokemon on its own. In the end, Wally earns his third ribbon. After losing the contest, May and Brennan praise Wally, but the group see Harley yelling furiously at his Bayonet over losing. Wally runs over and scolds him for blaming his Pokemon over his loss, but he says that he wants nothing to do with it anymore. He should have known that the Pokemon wouldn't do well in contests, since all it ever wanted to do was battle before, and it always did terribly in their contest training. He says that he already released it from his Pokeball, so it's not his problem anymore. Bayonet stands there sadly as their trainer walks away, and Wally suggests for her to join them. Bayonet seems unsure. However, Wally specifies, and he asks for May to catch it. She asks why Wally doesn't catch it, but he says that if what Harley says is true, the Pokemon might just generally prefer battling. Bayonet does seem really strong, and she might just be happier being used in gym battles. May decides that what Wally's saying makes sense, so she catches the Bayonet in a repeat ball and adds it to her team. The trio eventually passes by the Weather Institute, where they run into Team Magma and Aqua again. They've tied up the employees and are demanding information from them. May asks them what they want, and why they're always causing trouble and bothering people. This time, it's the admins Tabitha of Team Magma and Shelly of Team Aqua who they encounter. They explain that they're looking for information on the legendary Pokemon of the Hoenn region. Team Magma wants to find Groudon for the purpose of expanding the landmass of Hoenn, while Team Aqua wants to locate Kyogre to expand the amount of water in the region instead. And to use their powers, they're going to need some special items, which they're sure the Weather Institute workers have knowledge of. The kids fail to see how this will be of any benefit to the region, so naturally, they call out all their Pokemon to take on the teams. In the midst of battle, May notices a small Pokemon in a cage, being held by Shelly. The Weather Institute employees state that the Pokemon is their cast form, which both teams came to steal, each wanting to use its weather powers to seek out the legendary Pokemon. Upon hearing this, May goes all out, declaring that she'll save cast form from the villain's clutches. Brennan and Wally, of course, do the same, and eventually the grunts on all sides are defeated, and they're forced to retreat, with their admins. Wally's Kirlia levitates the cage holding Castform away from Shelly, and a Vice Grip Leaf Blade combo from May's Mawile and Brennan's Grovyle destroys its prison, freeing the Pokemon. The little Pokemon rushes over to May and nuzzles up to her. After being untied, the employees can't do enough to express their gratefulness to the trainers who saved them. They attempt to do so by gifting Wally with a Moonstone, Brendan a set of Ultra Balls, and May the very Castform she helped save. May is thrilled to have another new capture and happily welcomes Castform into her team. Though the encounter is over, May and the boys become very concerned with Team Magma and Aqua's presence, as their aspirations seem far more dangerous than they ever thought. Still, they have not much choice but to head to their next destination for now. After a long trek, the kids arrive in Fortree City. There, the trio meet the gym leader Winona outside of her gym with a Tropius, but the Tropius is angrily growling at her. The trio asks what's wrong with the Pokemon, and Winona states that this Tropius is injured, and she's been unable to try to heal it due to its aggression. May sends out Bayonet and puts the Tropius to sleep with hypnosis. From there, Brendan rushes over with a few potions to heal it. After Tropius wakes up, he's become much more calm and apologizes for his behavior. May says that Tropius looks really cool and she wants to catch it. Winona tells her that this Tropius has always been rather hot-headed and she's always been unsure if anyone would be able to train it. But May claims that she likes the challenge and actually uses her luxury ball that she got from the Devon Corporation to catch the Pokemon. Okay, enough new captures for now, how about we move on? May challenges Winona to a gym battle, which she accepts, as she's now quite intrigued by this trainer. Winona starts with her Altaria, while May uses Mawile. May struggles a lot as her Pokemon is stuck on the ground, while Altaria has a lot of mobility in the air. That said, while Altaria is pretty strong, its Dragon and Flying type moves really don't do much to Mawile. In the end, it's when Altaria comes in close for an Aerial Ace that May has Mawile use her jaws to grab Altaria's wings so that it can't fly away. Mawile then uses a brand new move May had recently taught her. A point-blank Ice Beam from Mawile's clamping jaws deals major damage and takes Altaria down. Winona's Pelipper is out next, and Mawile really has no moves to counter this Pokemon. She tries to fire off some Ice Beams, some of which do land, but none do too much damage to the Pelican. A couple of Hydro Pumps are enough to put Mawile out of the battle. Zigzagoon is May's next choice. He uses Thunderbolt for a strong hit, but Winona's Pelipper connects a Steel Wing into the ground while taking the attack to avoid taking much damage. This puts a big dent in May's plan, and Pelipper is able to launch numerous Hydro Pumps as it stands in place, with Zigzagoon taking the powerful hits. Eventually, May gets the idea to aim Thunderbolt at one of the pillars surrounding the battlefield. This causes one of them to crumble, so Pelipper has no choice but to fly away to avoid being hit. Once in the air, Zigzagoon can hit a proper Thunderbolt to defeat Pelipper. Winona's last Pokemon is a Shiny Swallow, and with Zigzagoon being exhausted, he can't do much but land a single Thunderbolt. The attack does good damage, but a single Aerial Ace takes him out. Mightyena is May's last choice. She starts things off with Crunch, but Swallow can dodge and hit back with Peck. As it comes in close, a follow-up Crunch deals heavy damage. Swallow launches numerous Aerial Ace attacks which deal major damage to the Hyena. Mightyena struggles to stay on her paws, and Winona decides to wrap things up with Hyper Beam. The attack closes in, but right before it lands, May orders Double Team. Mightyena makes several clones of herself, which surround the bird flying around her. The attack strikes a duplicate, which vanishes upon being hit. Swallow is in a state of needing to recharge before she can make another move, so Mightyena fires off a Hyper Beam of her own, taking down the gym leader's Pokemon. May is awarded her badge, but oddly she isn't in the best mood, and the boys can tell. Despite the win, May is quite distressed by this past gym performance. She thought back to her father's words after beating him, and feels ashamed that she nearly lost against Winona. Despite just having been there, Wally recommends some training at Professor Birch's lab if she's feeling unsure of herself. May feels like she needs to do something different, but Brendan decides to call up his father anyway. Unfortunately, his dad says that he won't be able to let them come over for a while, since he'll be leaving his lab for a bit. When Brendan asks why, Birch explains that he'll actually be heading to the Kanto region for a short while, as the local professor had asked him to bring over some Hoenn Pokemon for him to study. At first, May doesn't think much of this information, before she immediately realizes that this would be a great opportunity. She asks Birch if she, Brendan, and Wally can accompany him on his trip. She says that battling some gym leaders in the Kanto region would be a great way for her to train up her Pokemon. Birch agrees that it sounds like it would be some good training for her. Brendan then says that he'd love to be able to catch some Kanto Pokemon for his Pokédex as well. Wally asks then if there are any Pokemon contests in Kanto, and Birch affirms that there are, as a committee recently formed and brought contests to the region, and he should be able to compete. May asks Birch if he'll be going anywhere near a Pokemon gym, and Birch states that he won't, as he'll be at Professor Oak's lab in Palatown, but he could possibly make some arrangements to get them where they need to go. So with this, the group agrees that they'll be heading to the Kanto region. But before that, let's have our second movie now. It'll be Destiny Deoxys. Again, things are mostly the same as the canon version with just a few changes. Here, May will have Ash's role, Brendan will have a combo of May and Brock's roles, and Wally will have Max's role. But before moving back to the show, let's explain a few things. This trip will begin our Fire Red and Leaf Green Kanto arc. I feel like if this were an actual anime, Fire Red and Leaf Green would have released by now, since they released around the time Ash had a gym battle against Wattson in the actual show. This will be a short training arc for the trio, as Brendan adds to his Pokédex, Wally tries out some Kanto contests, and May battles a few Kanto gym leaders. And I think it only makes sense for her to battle the gym leaders that Ash didn't really have the most official victories against by today's standards. And that of course would be Erica, Misty, and Brock. Hold up. Shouldn't Misty and Brock still be traveling around with Ash, you say? Well, remember, our lore for this series was that we ended Ash's story with the events of the canon Orange Islands. But after that point, we're pretty free to do whatever we want. So I'm gonna say that after Ash's win, Brock and Misty became very inspired, seeing how Ash had grown from the stubborn rookie to the league winner he'd become. And they wanted to return to their gyms to become better and stronger gym leaders. Ash would have gotten some victory money for beating Drake, and he'd use that money to buy Misty her replacement bike, and the trio would separate. But of course, they'd still keep in touch. So by this point in time, Brock and Misty would be back at their gyms. And as for Ash, well, why don't we check up on him? Yes, this is not a drill, Ash fans. Despite what I originally planned, I'm making a small exception here. Since many of you guys wanted it and I said I wanted to take your suggestions, here it is. Ash will be appearing for our Fire Red and Leaf Green arc. However, Ash's story will be separate from May's, as it won't be part of the main series, but more of a side series like Pokemon Chronicles, if you're familiar with that. The kids won't be meeting, but these events will be taking place at the same time. While May is in Kanto's mainland, Ash is off on his newest journey. I'm going to briefly summarize Ash's entire short arc right now, and then we'll get back to May. Like I said, this is going to be Fire Red and Leaf Green promo, and what did those games add to Kanto? The Sevi Islands. So I'm going to say that for this story, Ash is on the Sevi Islands, which in our universe is going to have its own anime-exclusive gym challenge, very similar to the Orange Islands. Ash would arrive on the island and reunite with his Pidgeot, who would travel around with him for the period of time he's on these islands, mainly flying him around. He'll also reunite with Butterfree, who will travel with him while he's taking on these gyms. In this story, Ash would focus more on his lesser-used Pokemon, like Kingler, Muck, and Lapras, allowing them to get more battles. I also think Ash's team would have a few updates, so I'd have Squirtle and Bulbasaur evolve. Now I know Bulbasaur's lore was that he didn't want to evolve, so all you Ash fans out there can help a sister out, and let me know if you can think of a reason why Bulbasaur would change his mind on evolving in the comments. Lastly, I think Ash would make a new capture, and that would be an Eevee. Ash would win the Sevi Islands League, and the short series would end with Ash seeing a strange Pokemon in the sky, and then taking a boat back to Kanto. Hope you guys enjoyed this quick little cameo arc for Ash. Now let's get back to the main show. Back to our main trio, the Hoenn gang has arrived to Professor Oak's lab in Pallet Town, and they're ready to get to business. Max has come along for the ride, wanting to spend more time with his brother and check out the Kanto region. Brendan and Max immediately head to the Viridian Forest to make some new captures. Brendan catches a lot of Kanto Pokemon, including a Rattata, a Pidgey, Weedle, Caterpie, and more. This is where Brendan realizes that there are so many different Pokemon out there, and he's probably only seen and caught a small fraction of them. He thinks that even if he's able to complete the Hoenn Pokédex for his dad, there will still be so many Pokemon out there that he doesn't have. As he ponders on this, Max hears a shaking in the bushes. He and Brendan turn around to see a familiar, yet strange Pokemon. Meanwhile, Wally and May head over to Pewter City. Not only is a contest being held there, but May learns of the local gym leader and wants to challenge him. The two part ways and wish each other luck. Wally makes his way to the contest hall and competes with his entire Pokemon team. Things are going well until Wally is pit against a coordinator named Soledad in the semifinals. She has amazing contest combinations and very strong Pokemon. Wally's Skitty is battling her Slowpoke, and the battle is pretty much even. Skitty eventually uses Assist and is able to copy Minun's Shockwave, which knocks Slowpoke out. Wally is relieved to have beaten Soledad, but that battle was way too close. In the finals, Curlia battles with amazing elegance and intelligence, and Wally winds up winning the whole competition and earns his first Kanto ribbon. Of course, it won't contribute to his Hoenn contest journey, but it was an amazing amount of training. As a reward for winning, Wally uses his Moonstone on Skitty, and she evolves into a Delcatty. Now it's time for May's first Kanto gym battle. She'll be going against another Rock-type gym leader, Brock. May rushes in asking for a gym battle, and Brock quickly agrees to one. Brock sends in his Geodude, and May feels like this will be easy, but remains cautious. She uses her new cast form. Brock says that he's not familiar with that Pokemon, and asks May where she's from. May responds that she's from the Hoenn region, and is the daughter of one of their gym leaders. Brock inwardly groans that this will likely be difficult, since he doesn't know too much about Hoenn Pokemon, but nevertheless, the battle begins. Even though Saffron was only recently captured, the battle isn't too difficult at all. Geodude starts with a Rock Throw, which does hit hard, but Saffron doesn't seem too phased. May has Saffron use Rain Dance, which turns it into a Water type, thanks to her Forecast ability. Brock notes that he's only recently become familiar with certain Pokemon abilities, and he's surprised to see this one in person. From here, the battle goes by quickly. Geodude does land a strong Mega Punch, but Saffron takes the hit well enough, and a single close-range Weather Ball knocks out Geodude in a single hit. Even May is shocked by how quickly that Geodude went down. With her overconfidence subdued, she expected a lot more from a gym leader's Pokemon. Brock looks disappointed, but he tries not to let the one defeat phase him. He sends out his next Pokemon, a Sootopolis. May has never seen the Pokemon before, but doesn't let her guard down. She commands another Weather Ball, and the tree Pokemon does take a large amount of damage. But Brock commands Thunder Punch, which does major damage to Saffron. The rain stops and Saffron reverts back to her normal type. At first, May is pleased by this since Thunder Punch won't do as much damage anymore, but she soon realizes that Saffron doesn't know any other Water type moves. She tries a basic Weather Ball, but Sootopolis barely takes any damage from it. He then takes Saffron out with a Dynamic Punch. This concerns May. She wanted to mainly train up her new Pokemon, but now that seems risky. That said, she does have other Pokemon who haven't battled in a while, so she makes the choice to send out Breloom. Breloom is able to battle well against Sootopolis, especially due to her typing. The Pokemon trade attacks back and forth, and is pretty much even. Brock calls for Rock Throw, but May has Breloom destroy the rocks with Mach Punch, sending small rock shards flying across the battlefield. Sootopolis tries to rush in with Dynamic Punch, but is countered by another Mach Punch. From here, Breloom can take Sootopolis out with a close-range Sky Uppercut. Brock sends out his last Pokemon, a Steelix. May comments that the Pokemon looks strong, but doesn't really look like a Rock type. Brock states that the Pokemon's pre-evolved form was a Rock type, but it just recently evolved into a Steelix, which is a Steel type. May isn't sure how a gym leader can use a Pokemon that isn't of his main type, but doesn't really question it. She recalls Breloom and sends out Pelipper. Pelipper battles well as he uses his strong Water Pulse to deal heavy damage, and his newfound speed to avoid Rock Throw attacks. But Steelix is shockingly resistant and is able to power through the super effective attacks, and land heavy hits to Pelipper. Steelix eventually routs Pelipper with Bind, and the Pokemon is struggling to land any moves. May calls out to him and begs for him to break through. The situation looks bleak until Pelipper fires off one last Water Pulse. But the Water Pulse is now a Hydro Pump. The powerful attack hits Steelix smack in the face and pushes it back, freeing Pelipper. May then calls for another final Hydro Pump, which defeats Steelix, giving May the win. May congratulates Pelipper on his new move and thanks him for getting her the win over Brock. Brock looks quite saddened over his loss, and May naturally asks why. After all, as a gym leader, wouldn't he be used to losing to trainers? Brock says that normally this would be true, but he'd actually only just recently returned to his gym after a long absence. And while he knew he'd be a bit rusty, he didn't expect to lose this badly, only taking out one of his opponent's Pokemon. But May tells him that he'll surely get back into the swing of things, as he battles more trainers. Brock thanks her for the encouragement and offers her a badge. But May actually says that she doesn't really want the badge, because she'd only challenged him to train up her Pokemon. She's currently taking on the Hoenn League, and aimed to compete in their league conference. Brock understands her point, but insists that she take the badge anyway. After all, she never knows if she'll decide to take on the Kanto Indigo League at some point. May relents and decides to take the badge. She meets back up with Wally, and the two decide that their next move should be to venture over to Cerulean City. Brendan contacts them and lets them know that he and Max are taking a bus, and they'll meet them in the morning. So May and Wally spend the night at a Pokemon Center. It turns out that the bus is also heading to Cerulean City after it leaves Pewter City, so as the bus arrives, May and Wally join Brendan and Max, and they all head over to their next destination. Once they arrive, the four once again split up. Brendan and Max head to the nearby Cerulean Cave, where the older boy plans to catch some more Pokemon. Grovyle assists him in making most of the captures, and Brendan is impressed by how much stronger he's become. While in a tough battle against a wild Rhydon, his Torkoal starts to struggle, so he sends in Hariyama. Hariyama successfully knocks out the Rhydon with the help of Grovyle for Brendan to catch. And Brendan decides to add the Pokemon to his team. While heading deeper into the cave, Brendan's puzzle alerts him to some strange noise. Max wants to go deeper to investigate, but Brendan becomes concerned after seeing lots of damage to the cave, and a few injured wild Pokemon. Still, the two venture forward, with Brendan instructing his Pokemon to keep Max safe. He, Max, and his Pokemon make it a decent way into the cave, but at some point, a force field blocks them from going any further. Brendan's Pokemon attempt to attack the barrier, but to no avail. Eventually, they are pushed back by what seems to be strong psychic power. Concerned for Max's safety over anything, Brennan decides to back out, but the mystery of the cave intrigues him, and he vows to one day come back and see what's living in the depths of it. Wally meanwhile enters another local contest. Curlia uses his clever psychic-type moves to create a spectacular appeal, which guarantees Wally a spot in the battle rounds. Wally's Pokemon battle well, and Delcatty especially shows off her new skills, and creates a lot of cute combination attacks. Minun is used in the semifinals in a battle against a Snorlax, and despite the size and power difference, Minun's cool electric combinations give Wally a narrow victory with a few points over his opponent. In the final round, Wally battles against a coordinator with a Blaziken. He's naturally surprised to see a trainer using a Hoenn Pokemon in Kanto, but this doesn't intimidate him. He decides to fight fire with fire, using his Combuskin. Despite her beautiful attacks, unfortunately, Combuskin surely struggles against her evolved form, and in the end, Wally sadly isn't able to keep up. He loses by quite a large amount of points, which really saddens both him and Combuskin. He thought he would have an advantage over the Kanto coordinators, since contests are newer to the region, but clearly there are other Hoenn competitors as well. Wally decides to step his game up at the next contest. As he leaves, he's stunned to see a wild Eevee dancing joyfully near the contest hall, using random graceful moves. It almost appears to be mimicking contest appeals. He's surprised to see a wild Pokemon engaging in such behavior, and is quite impressed by its happy dancing and performance skills. He sends out Delcatty and initiates a battle. Through the battling, Eevee shows incredible toughness in his attacks. At the same time, it seems to greatly admire the way Delcatty moves and performs, almost looking up to her. Wally eventually weakens the Eevee enough and catches it with a Premier Ball. And of course, now we get to May's gym battle. She enters the Cerulean gym and meets the gym leader, Misty, inside. She requests a battle right away, and Misty obliges. She seems much more energetic about the battle than Brock did, so May feels like she'll be a stronger opponent. Misty sends out a Goldeen to begin the battle. May decides to start things off with her Zigzagoon. Misty shows clear surprise at seeing the Pokemon, having never seen one before. May isn't surprised by this reaction since the first gym leader she faced had the same response to her Hoenn Pokemon. May lets the leader know where she's from, and this noticeably gets Misty a bit nervous, but she pushes those thoughts to the side in favor of bragging that she doesn't need to be familiar with the Pokemon, because hers are strong enough to defeat anyone. Misty starts by commanding Horn Attack, and May has Zigzagoon dodge and strike back with Headbutt. Goldeen dodges by hiding underwater in the gym pool. Misty commands Fury Attack, and the move hits, but Zigzagoon doesn't seem too hurt. May decides to simply command a close-range Thunderbolt, since Goldeen is up so close. And the attack electrifies the water. Goldeen is knocked out in the single hit, surprising May. She considered what happened with Brock to be a fluke, but here yet another gym leader's Pokemon is taken down so quickly. She remembers what Brock said about being gone for a while, but secretly wonders if Kanto gym leaders just aren't as strong as the ones in Hoenn. Misty is deeply upset by the loss, but tries to keep her composure. She goes with her Staryu next, and May switches to her newest Pokemon, Tropius. Tropius starts things off with a wing attack, but Staryu is quick enough to dodge and strike back with Rapid Spin. This attack barely seems to phase the large grass type, and May orders a follow-up Magical Leaf. Misty tells Staryu to dodge again, but the bright glowing leaves follow behind Staryu and strike it regardless. May informs the girl that Magical Leaf will never miss, even when dodged, something which shocks Misty, as she was unfamiliar with the move. May is stunned by how little these Kanto gym leaders know about certain things, but focuses back on the battle. She commands her Tropius to use Solar Beam, so he begins charging up. Misty tells her Staryu to use Swift, but it barely does a thing to the opponent. A single Solar Beam strikes Staryu and takes it out of the battle. Misty becomes even more upset and throws out her final Pokemon, Starmie. Starmie enters the battlefield and May switches to her Bayonet. Misty orders Water Gun, but Bayonet floats around to dodge the attack. May orders a Shadow Ball, which Starmie attempts to intercept with Water Gun. It only just pushes the attack back, so it can hide in the gym pool to avoid the Ghosty Orb. Unfortunately for Misty, this seems to be her only tactic with Starmie. Its only other move is Tackle, which can't hit Ghost types. Bayonet vanishes into the air and reappears behind the Starfish, before it can even react to what is happening. Once a single Shadow Ball hits, Starmie is down. Misty recalls her Pokemon and hollers in clear distress. May asks honestly if this was her first day as a gym leader. She won't feel offended if it was. Misty says that it technically wasn't, though it may as well be. She explains that she's been gone from her gym for a long time and only just got back to acting as the official active gym leader a very short while ago. May notes the similarity in Misty's story as the previous gym leader, but doesn't dwell on it. Misty continues by saying that while she was away from the gym, she really didn't do too much battling or training, and felt her skills were lacking. It even prompted her to enter Johto's World Cup a while back to work on training her Pokemon. This surprises May as she'd watched the Johto Water-type tournament, but doesn't even remember seeing Misty, though she admits that she was more focused on Jimmy. The girl continues, saying she didn't really have the chance to use and work with all of her Pokemon back then, and now she says that she truly regrets not doing much more with her Pokemon when she was away from her gym. She now has to challenge trainers who very well have more battle experience than her, and is driving her crazy. May tells Misty that she can relate to feeling inadequate after a loss, and tells her that maybe she could take a step back from trying to rush back into acting as a gym leader, and take even more time to train. That's what she's doing now, having paused her Hoenn gym quest to do some training in Kanto in order to get her Pokemon even stronger. And of course, you can't go wrong with catching more Pokemon to have a better roster to face opponents. Misty seems reluctant, if not a bit stubborn, but agrees that May has a point. She tells her that she'll work more on training her existing Pokemon and catching more new ones. She gives May a Cascade badge, which the challenger happily accepts. The quartet reunites and they catch up with Professor Birch via phone. He lets them know that he plans to return back to Hoenn soon, so they best finish up their training. The kids discuss things, and they decide that their next and final stop on their ship will be to Celadon City, as it has a gym and will be hosting a Pokemon contest soon. After a long bus ride, the group arrives and split up once more to fulfill their respective tasks. Brawly does a lot of training with his Pokemon before his next contest, especially as he wants to see how Eevee's moves can best mesh with the rest of his Pokemon. The day of the contest, Brawly does not underestimate his competitors, especially since this will be a full double performance show. After Minun and his new Eevee create a cool appeal with electric-type attacks and Eevee's hidden power, he makes it to the battle rounds easily. All of his other Pokemon do great in the later rounds, and he makes it to the finals once more. Delcatty and Eevee battle well against their opponents, despite Eevee only just joining the team. It's almost like they've been contest compadres forever. With surprisingly tough combinations and their adorable personalities, they wind up winning the Kanto contest. After this victory, Brawly becomes excited to get back to his Hoenn contest quest. Brennan, meanwhile, has been catching more Pokemon. His powerful new Rhydon has been a great help in adding more Pokemon to his collection. His father will be surely happy with all of his new Kanto Pokemon to study. And Max, likewise, can't wait to see how the Kanto Pokemon interact with the ones in Hoenn. It's something he's been looking forward to observing and studying. Meanwhile, something Brendan has been noticing a lot lately is how many Pokemon he's been seeing, which look similar to each other, but have some minor differences. He feels he best asks his father about it once they reunite at Professor Oak's lab. May goes out to buy a few things at the Celadon department store before heading to the gym. In particular, she prioritizes getting some TMs. Around an hour later, she enters Celadon gym to challenge the leader. The leader, Erica, greets her elegantly as soon as she arrives. May compliments the girl on her beauty and her outfit, something which has Erica delighted. Offhand, May quickly asks Erica if she has by any chance been away from her gym for a while, and the girl, with confusion on her face, responds that she hasn't. Good, May thinks sheepishly, much to the confusion of Erica, who says that if she's ready, they can begin their battle. May happily agrees, hoping this gym leader will actually be a challenge. Erica starts out with her Tangela, while May sends in Cast Form. Tangela starts out with Constrict, preventing Cast Form from moving. However, this fails to stop her from executing a Sunny Day, which changes her form and typing. This stuns Erica, who's never seen Cast Form's battling capabilities in person. Still, she tries to take control with Stun Spore. The attack lands, paralyzing Cast Form, but she still manages to strike with Weather Ball. The attack does heavy damage, but Tangela remains standing. Tangela strikes with Giga Drain, recovering a bit of health, and she goes in for a Solar Beam. The attack lands, but it's not enough to defeat Cast Form. A follow-up flamethrower from the little fireball takes Tangela down. May is thrilled that they have the TM for the attack in the store. Erica compliments the trainer on her strength and sends out her Victory Bell. Despite having a type advantage, with Cast Form being paralyzed, May feels it's safer switching to Tropius. The Leaf Dinosaur goes in for a wing attack, but Victory Bell actually dodges at the last second and strikes back with Acid at impeccable speed. May is impressed by the Pokemon's speed, but Erica explains that it was actually Cast Form's own Sunny Day, which increased Victory Bell's speed, thanks to her Chlorophyll ability. May grimaces but feels like she can get by this. Victory Bell uses Solar Beam, and Tropius counters back with the same attack, at the same speed. Considering the speed of the collision, May figures that Tropius must also have Chlorophyll. With that, she confidently calls for another wing attack, but Victory Bell dodges again. Victory Bell fires off a Sludge Bomb, but Tropius intercepts it with Magical Leaf. The sunlight fades, reducing the speed of both Pokemon. Victory Bell uses Acid, but this time, May has Tropius simply charge straight through the attack and hit Wing Attack. Erica's Pokemon continues firing the attack, but Tropius does as commanded and charges straight through it and then strikes with Wing Attack. The super effective attack from the powerful Pokemon is enough to take Victory Bell down. Erica is impressed with the Hoenn Pokemon's willpower. She then sends out her final Pokemon, Vileplume. At this point, with Tropius being so weakened, a single Sludge Bomb from Vileplume is enough to finish him off. May sends Swellow in, having not battled with her in a while. Vileplume uses Petal Dance, but Swallow is quick enough to dodge. She strikes back with Aerial Ace, which deals heavy damage. Erica tries to get the speed advantage, so Vileplume switches to Stun Spore, but May doesn't even have her Pokemon dodge. Erica is confused by this until Swallow begins to glow. It's her Guts ability. May orders Facade, and Erica has Vileplume intercept with Petal Dance. Swallow is pushed back slightly, but manages to push through to land the hit. Vileplume is hit hard, but withstands the blow. Erica has her Pokemon strike back with the same attack, and Swallow is unable to dodge due to paralysis, and the attack sends her falling into the ground. Erica orders another attack, but by now, Vileplume is confused, due to the prolonged usage of Petal Dance. So Vileplume's Sludge Bombs simply slam into the walls of the gym, missing Swallow entirely. May sees this as her chance at victory, and orders a Facade. This time the attack lands, as Vileplume can do nothing to defend herself. Finally, a powered-up Aerial Ace is enough to take the Fire Pokemon down. Erica praises May on her win, and May is thrilled for an actually challenging battle this time around. She praises Swallow for her victory, and the bird cheers in delight. She's given her Rainbow Badge, and departs the gym. The kids reunite, and they all talk about their experiences. Professor Birch contacts them with a Pokénev, and asks if they finished everything they wanted to do. They confirm that they're ready to head back, and this is where Birch prepares a ride for them to return to the lab in a few days. The kids eventually make it back to the lab, and this is where Brendan says that he has an important question for his father and Oak before they go. He wants to know about a particular Pokemon he caught that looked very different from others of its species. Oak says that he thinks he already has an idea of which Pokemon he's talking about. He picks up a Pokeball and sends out a Pikachu, but just as Brendan said, it looks different. The typical lightning bolt-shaped tail resembles a heart more than anything. This shocks May and Wally, who've never seen a Pikachu look like that. Professor Oak says that the reason this Pikachu's tail looks this way is simple. It's a female. This confuses the kids, who've said that they're sure they've seen female Pikachu with a lightning-shaped tail. Bart says that it seems even in present day, Pokemon are continuing to evolve. He adds that the Pokemon professors around the world have noticed that more and more Pokemon are presenting different appearances based purely on their gender, even those that previously didn't seem to have them. Professor Oak said this is also true of Pokemon like Brendan's Rhydon, and that his is a female due to having a shorter horn than previously observed. This shocks the young trainers, and Brendan wonders just how many different Pokemon are out there and the differences they have between them based on elements like their gender. It makes him want to travel to more places and see more types of Pokemon. Nevertheless, with the Kanto mission done, the kids prepare to head back home. But Brendan decides to add the female Pikachu to his roster as they return. Oak tells Birch that he'll send all of the Pokemon Brendan caught to his lab in Hoenn. With a hearty thanks, the group makes their way to the airport. This thus concludes our Fire Red and Leaf Read arc. I hope you guys enjoyed it, seeing some of the previous characters that have recently aired in the Kanto series, and now we can continue on with our Hoenn quest. The group was set to land in Mossdeep City, but due to weather conditions, they land in Crossgate Town for an unscheduled landing. They are told that they can wait for the weather to clear before moving on to Mossdeep, so the kids decide to explore the town. Immediately, the group sees advertisements everywhere for something called a PokeRinger competition. The competition greatly interests May, and she wants to enter to work more with her flying types, mainly her new Choppius. Brendan also wants to enter, as he has plenty of flying Pokemon to work with. The kids inform Birch of their change in plans, stating that they'll just catch the next plane to Mossdeep after the competition. Birch is fine with this, and simply states that he and Max will just head back to Little Root Town. Brendan and Max share a goodbye hug, and the younger boy heads home with his father. Brendan and May rush over to register for the competition, and while signing up, they notice a poster of a girl with her Venomoth. May asks who the girl is, and the person behind the desk seems shocked. That's Katie of Lily Cove City, last year's winner. She's an expert trainer in general and an amazing PokeRinger as well. May becomes intrigued by the girl and hopes she can challenge her in the competition. So guys, we're gonna slightly change how PokeRinger works here. In the original anime, you could only compete with one Pokemon. I'm gonna say that the contestants can register as many flying type Pokemon as they have, but of course they can only use one per round. May, of course, will be using her Pelberg, Swallow, and Choppius, while Brendan will go with his Beautifly and Dustox. He sends Pikachu and Rhydon to his dad's lab temporarily so he can use his bugs in the competition since they're able to fly. Before the competition begins, last year's champion Katie is introduced with her Venomoth and a Shelgon by her side. She states that she hopes this year's PokeRinger will be amazing, but that she plans to win in the end. May is impressed by the girl's confidence and wants to compete against her more than ever. The first round goes well. It's a series of group blocks where the challengers must win against 3 other trainers at once. May and Brendan are in separate blocks, but both make it through to the top 16, despite being rookies. In the next series of challenges, our main duo are getting the hang of things. May's Pelipper wins against a Charizard, and Brendan's Beautify beats a Butterfree. Katie's Venomoth is shown to have effortlessly won against a Volbeat. In the top 8, Brennan's Dustox struggles against a Swablu, but he gets the win in the end. Once again, Katie wins against a trainer's Jumpluff. May's Speedy Swallow gets a win against a trainer's Skarmory. May is starting to feel a bit more confident. Once the top 4 rolls around, Brennan is paired against Katie, and May against the trainer with a Ninjask. Brennan's Beautifly tries her hardest, but she sadly is nowhere near fast enough to compete with Katie's Venomoth, who grabs the ring before Beautifly can get close. Brennan's Bug tries to attack Venomoth to get the ring, but sadly Venomoth is way too strong, and a combination of Stun Spore and Supersonic puts Beautifly out of commission completely. She's helpless as Katie scores the goal. May is impressed by Katie's skills. Even as Swallow beats the Ninjask, May can't help but be slightly nervous about going against Katie in the finals. Brennan and Wally both wish May luck, but once again, she can do nothing to hide her nervousness. Still, she encourages Tropius to do well. The two girls meet before the finals, and May fangirls over Katie, complimenting her on her skills. She compliments the girl on her Shelgon, stating that it looks strong. Katie thanks her and says that she wanted her Shelgon to watch the competition to give it the encouragement to learn to fly. May is then shocked when Katie praises her over her performance, despite this being her first PokeRinger. She tells May that all of her Pokemon are well trained, and this is where May tells Katie that she's aiming to compete in the Hoenn Pokemon League. Katie then reveals to May that she's also planning to compete. This shocks May, and she asks Katie how many badges she has, and she states that she has 7. May becomes awestruck, and now admires Katie even more. Katie tells May that she's excited for their match, and the two head to the outdoor arena. May uses Tropius, and Katie uses her signature Venomoth. Venomoth winds up being faster than Tropius, so it easily grabs the ring before Tropius can. May therefore decides to just go on the attack. She orders a Magical Leaf since Venomoth can't dodge it. This causes the moth to lose its grip on the ring. Tropius is able to grab it, and he speeds over to the goal as quickly as he can, but Venomoth uses Supersonic to confuse Tropius and stop him in his tracks. May calls for the Fruit Beast to pull through and use Wing Attack. Tropius tries to execute his attack, but it's no use. For good measure, Katie orders a Stun Spore to slow Tropius down. This causes him to straight up drop the ring. May begs for her Pokemon to break free, but he can't do anything aside from flail around in the air and aimlessly launch attacks, which hit nothing. Venomoth grabs the ring and dashes over to the goal, scoring it effortlessly. Katie is thus the winner and the second-time Pokemon Ringer champion. At the awards ceremony, May applauds as she stands in awe of Katie's capabilities as a trainer. If her skills in PokeRinger are this good, she can only imagine what kind of battler she is. The kids are eventually able to make their way to Mossdeep City for May's next gym battle, but while in town, there is a skirmish going on. A group of wild Zangoose and Viper are duking it out, and the citizens are in shock, unsure of what to do. Two people in blue uniforms seem to be trying to get a handle of things with their Solrock and Lunatone, but their constant arguing is making things difficult. Brendan eventually uses his Rhydon and Grovyle to intervene, battling many of the trainer's Pokemon and scaring most of them away. One Zangoose and Viper in particular remain, and the Zangoose is nearly defeated. Brendan manages to knock out the Viper with Rhydon and catch it. Meanwhile, May battles the Zangoose with Marshtomp. Despite how weakened the Pokemon is, it puts up a good fight, to the point that Marshtomp gets badly beaten. But in her determination to win, she evolves into Swampert. This stuns the Zangoose, but it still doesn't back down. But with Swampert's newfound strength and a newly learned Muddy Water, she is then able to take the Zangoose down, and May actually catches it after seeing how strong it was. The two kids thank May and Brennan for their assistance, but they're still arguing, blaming the other for such a failed attempt at stopping the fight. The trio is pretty annoyed by all this fighting, so they simply ask the kids if they can tell them where the gym is. This is when the duo introduces themselves as the twin gym leaders of Mossdeep City, Tate and Liza. May is shocked to hear of a gym with two leaders, but asks them for a battle nonetheless. The leaders, still arguing, agree to the battle after a quick trip to the Pokemon Center. Before leaving, they let May know that it'll be a double battle. At the gym, while waiting for the leaders, May is pretty nervous. She's never had a double gym battle before, but hopes her Pokemon will be up to the task. Tate and Liza eventually arrive, but they're still arguing. At this point, May wonders if they'll even be able to battle properly, but decides not to try to get involved. The twins make their way to their side of the battlefield and call out their Pokemon. Tate sends out his Solrock and Liza goes with her Lunatone. Considering her options, May ultimately decides to use her Bayonet and Swampert. Right off the bat, things are unconventional to say the least. Tate and Liza are just attacking randomly, barely acting like a team. May's Pokemon are able to dodge and fight back pretty easily. May has Swampert use her newly learned Muddy Water. Lunatone and Solrock try to push the attack away with Psychic, but Swampert expands the size of the wave to ensure the hit. The attack strikes her opponents for super effective damage, but sadly, due to the size of the waves, it also hits Bayonet as well, something May didn't realize would happen. Swampert apologizes to Bayonet for hitting her, and the ghost type seems to accept the apology. Brendan points out that Tate and Liza could learn a thing about teamwork from May's Pokemon. Tate decides to use a secret weapon and orders a solar beam at Swampert, but unfortunately for him, the attack is blocked by Protect before it can do any damage. And from here, Bayonet uses Shadow Ball at the Sun Pokemon, dealing heavy damage. Liza decides to become the much-needed defensive wall, and Lunatone uses Light Screen to weaken some of the attacks from May's side. May is in a tough situation. Muddy Water is the best attack Swampert can use, but it could hurt Bayonet as well if the wave gets too large. She needs to find a way to attack while keeping Bayonet safe. So May has the ghost use Hypnosis on Solrock, which lands, and from there she orders Nightmare. Solrock is now completely incapacitated and is taking constant damage. This infuriates Tate as he blames Liza for allowing his Pokemon to be attacked like this. Liza also becomes angered since she was the only one trying to play defensively by using Light Screen to protect both of them. With the twins stuck in their argument, May decides to go all out. Bayonet launches multiple Shadow Balls at Lunatone. Lunatone tries to use Psychic to send the attacks back, but Swampert uses Protect in front of Bayonet to keep her safe. Once free to move, Bayonet vanishes into the air and reappears numerous spots all around Lunatone in order to confuse the opponent. Solrock is meanwhile still trapped in his nightmare, and no matter how much Tate yells at it, it won't wake up. The twins continue to argue about how the other is no help and how they'll lose this. At this, May decides to take her chance. She orders Swampert to use Muddy Water and orders Bayonet to dodge by using her ghostly abilities to dive into the gym floor. If Ash can use Thunder Armor and other nonsense, I can do this. At least this is slightly reasonable. Also, Muddy Water didn't even hit the ally, so I think this is okay. This strategy is successful, and the attack does huge damage to the other Pokemon. Solrock finally wakes up, but at this point not much can be done. Bayonet fires off a flurry of Shadow Balls, which Solrock is too weak to hold back, with his psychic powers. Lunatone tries an Ice Beam, but Swampert intercepts it with her bare hands. From here, she's able to slam her Icy Fist into Lunatone, and Wally comments that it looked like Swampert used Ice Punch. This attack takes Lunatone down. Tate tries a last-ditch Solar Beam with his Solrock, but Bayonet fires a Shadow Ball before it can even finish charging the attack. And with Solrock being so weak, it winds up being defeated. Tate and Liza are furious over their loss, each blaming the other. May is just about done with his arguing and simply asks for a badge so she can go. She's quickly given the Mind Badge and exits the gym with her friends, stunned over the behavior of the twins, but proud of her Pokemon's teamwork. I'd say now that it's time for our third movie. This will be Pokemon Heroes, Latios and Latias. I get that you're probably confused, so let me explain. If you watched my Johto Saga, you'd notice that I didn't have the original Eon Duo movie there because I made my own original 3 movies to focus on the 3 legendary beasts. And one of the main reasons I did that was because I wanted to put the Eon Duo movie in the Hoenn Saga, since they are Hoenn legendary Pokemon anyway. So I moved Pokemon Heroes from that lineup, and this new version of that movie will now be taking place somewhere in Hoenn. Brendan will take on Ash's role this time around, bonding with Latias, while a minor change will be that May will bond with Latios separately. The events of the movie will be primarily the same, minus taking place in Hoenn and those changes, with characters like Annie and Oakley now having Hoenn Pokemon in addition to the ones they had. As the gang rest up at a local Pokemon Center, Wally sees news of a contest happening in the next few days. The trio thus decide to stay in the city so Wally can compete. The next day, while working on his Pokemon's upcoming performance, a wild Kecleon steals some Pokeblocks Wally had made for his Pokemon. This angers his team, who chase after it. They end up cornering it, and in a rage, begin a battle. Kecleon proves to be very agile and dodges many attacks, but sadly, it's just too outnumbered. Wally's Pokemon defeats the mischievous troublemaker and gives it a scolding. But when Wally reaches them, he winds up feeling bad for the Pokemon. It just seems it was hungry. He then asks the Pokemon if it wants some food, and it accepts some Pokeblocks. Wally prepares to leave the Pokemon behind, but Kecleon actually follows behind them. As such, Wally asks it if it would like to join his team, and it agrees. Wally immediately begins having Kecleon work with his Pokemon on contest performances, and she surprisingly gets the hang of things quickly. Kecleon, interestingly enough, has a wide range of moves and natural abilities which exude beauty, intelligence, toughness, intelligence, and cuteness. Wally feels the Pokemon will be perfect. Wally enters the Mossdeep contest, and it's certainly a wonderful experience. After his Kanto contest training, he's gotten so much better with his skills. Delcatty and Kecleon create an amazingly adorable appeal, leading Wally into the battle rounds. Minun and Curlia do well in the first battle round, taking out their opponents with ease. Combuskin and Eevee likewise follow up well in the second round. The third round is a bit more difficult, and Curlia and Kecleon struggle a little, but they're able to use their psychic attacks to do enough damage to take the opponents down. In the final round, Wally sees himself facing Drew again. The boys Butterfree and Absol are tough opponents for Combusken and Minun, especially with Absol knowing Water Pulse. But in the middle of battle, Combusken evolves into Blaziken, and from here, she gains the strength to defeat Absol with a Brick Break. Butterfree goes down soon after, with a cool-looking Thunder taking it out. Wally has now properly defeated Drew and earns his 4th Hoenn ribbon. After the contest, the trio prepares to leave, but before they do, they hear of a commotion in town. It turns out that the Mossdeep Space Center has been the next target of Team Magma and Team Aqua. Brendan becomes enraged upon hearing this, and he recklessly dashes off, with May and Wally trailing behind. As the kids arrive, all admins and leaders are present. Surprisingly, the local gym leaders are also present, attempting to stop the evil leaders. May, Brennan, and Wally send out all their Pokemon to take on the opponents, alongside Tate and Liza. Brennan demands to know what they are doing there, and Courtney says that Team Magma is in need of rocket fuel. Meanwhile, Matt keeps going on about some meteorite, saying that they need it to create a powerful orb. The kids are of course confused, but fearful more than anything, so they get right into battle. All of their Pokemon battle intensely, but surprisingly, Courtney and Matt are able to hold their own. Tate and Liza wind up actually working together to take down many of the admin's Pokemon. They then urge May and her friends to find the leaders and stop them. The kids rush off and are surprised to see Tabitha and Maxie engaged in a battle against Shelly and Archie. The quartet is doing a lot of damage, so the kids rush to defeat all 4 of them. Brennan's Grovyle is being badly beaten by Archie's Crobat, but Plusle rushes into his defense. Archie tries to have his Sharpedo take out the weakened Grovyle with Crunch, but Brendan tells Grovyle to power through. A Leaf Blade intercepts Sharpedo, and Grovyle uses all of his strength to not only push the shark back, but take it down. With a victory cry, he evolves into Sceptile. Brennan is thrilled by this. With his newfound prowess, Sceptile leads his team in defeating the rest of Archie's Pokemon. Hariyama takes down his Mightyena with ease, and Pikachu finishes off Crobat with a Thunder. Meanwhile, Rhydon defeats Shelly's Golbat with Takedown. May and Wally, on the other hand, have focused their attention on Tabitha and Maxie. Delcatty and Minun use their contest skills to create combination attacks, which act as distractions toward the enemy Pokemon. May's new Zangoose shows off his intense strength as he tears through Tabitha's entire team of Mightyena, Crobat, and Numel with barely any issues. This allows her other Pokemon to defeat the majority of Maxie's Pokemon, as Wally takes on his strongest. They're all in a deep brawl against Maxie's Camerupt, but wear it down through their combined efforts. Blaziken is able to exhaust it with her physical strength, and lands a strong Blaze Kick. Meanwhile, Curly and Kecleon pelted with their psychic attacks. Even Eevee shows off his toughness, as he is able to deal hard hits with Dig. Eventually, Team Magma and Aqua are forced to retreat, but they state that they're nowhere near completed with their mission, and they will be back. Archie mumbles something about Meteor Falls, while Maxie mentions Mount Pyre, but the kids are simply happy to have won, for now. They meet back up with Tate and Liza up front, and the gym leaders thank them for their assistance. They praise all 3 of them on their strength and skills, not to mention their teamwork, which really encouraged them to start working together and to stop arguing as much. They also tell May that she should be able to take on Hoenn's strongest gym leader, Juan. Once they inform her that he's in Sootopolis City, the kids make their way over. As they travel, they're hearing more and more about Team Aqua and Magma causing trouble on the news and from locals. Everyone is terrified about what is going on. Even more disturbing is that the weather has been incredibly unpredictable lately, with wild thunderstorms popping up across the region every other day, followed by bizarre heat waves. It has everyone in a panic. But the champion of the region, Stephen Stone, has made it public that civilians should not get involved, as he will handle these nefarious groups, along with local gym leaders, should the teams show up in their areas. This allows May to focus more on her final gym battle, which she knows will be the toughest yet. She's been training relentlessly, and right now, the only decision is choosing a lineup. She has so many Pokemon to pick from, so narrowing it down to just a few will be a daunting task in itself. Wally also takes the time to work with his Pokemon on their contest skills, since he only needs 1 more ribbon to qualify for the Grand Festival. Brennan feels like he can't really relax though. Team Magma and Aqua's actions are filling him with a lot of dread. He can't stand the idea of innocent Pokemon being harmed by their actions. His mind is so boggled that he fails a lot of captures along the road to Sootopolis. Even his Pokemon can tell that a lot is on his mind, but they try to remain calm and focused for him. But as time passes, Team Magma and Aqua are continuing their work in the shadows. The trio arrives at Sootopolis after a few days and are immediately greeted by a man named Wallace. He introduces himself as the former gym leader of the city, and he offers to take the kids to the gym. As he does so, he explains that with the recent bad weather, the gym leader Hoenn hadn't been able to accept mini gym battles, but thankfully the weather is calm today, so he hopes that May's challenge will be accepted. Once they arrive to the gym, Hoenn is happy to see Wallace in town, and agrees to a battle from May. He's familiar with her, as he's heard a lot of good things about her from her father, and is excited for this battle. Once they get to the battlefield, Hoenn informs May that his battle format is different from all other gym leaders in the Hoenn region. They'll start with a double battle, and once those two Pokemon are defeated, it'll be a 3-on-3, meaning May can use up to 5 Pokemon. This shocks May, as she didn't expect to be able to use that many, but she's fine, because she feels like her chosen team will be perfect. Also, the double battle experience she had in the last gym gave her the foresight to train with her team in the double battle format, and their teamwork has grown exponentially. Hoenn starts off with his Celio and Seaking, so May sends out her Zigzagoon and Zangoose. These two have been training together a lot lately, causing Zigzagoon to look up to Zangoose as a big brother figure, so May is confident that they can win. Zangoose once again shows off his thirst for battle right off the bat. As Hoenn calls for a water gun from Seaking, Zangoose lunges in for a slash before May can even call for the move. The cat ferret slashes right through the stream of water for a powerful hit. May has Zigzagoon use a follow-up Thunderbolt, which deals a heavy blow to the fish. May praises Zangoose for his power, but reminds him to wait for her commands. Zangoose shyly apologizes for getting too ahead of himself. Hoenn is impressed by May's Pokemon's power, but warns her that a reckless Pokemon could cause for a dangerous battle on her end. He orders Cecilio to use Ice Ball on Zigzagoon, but the small raccoon actually dodges by jumping into the water. He then uses another Thunderbolt against Seaking, but it dodges. It charges in for a Horn Drill, and Zigzagoon can't swim fast enough to dodge. But Zangoose jumps in to intercept the blow with Crush Claw. From here, a second Thunderbolt from Zigzagoon takes the fish down. With Celio being alone, Hoenn tries to get the upper hand by ordering Blizzard to attack both opponents at once. They're hit hard, but May orders them to hang on. She then has Zangoose pick up Zigzagoon, then throw him down for an aerial secret power. The attack lands, though Celio's bulky body allows him to withstand the hit. He tries to strike with a final Surf for a major hit, but Zangoose is able to slash straight through the surf to send Celio hurtling into the water. Zigzagoon then uses a final Thunderbolt to finish off Celio. Hoenn praises May on the Pokemon's teamwork and says that he understands why her father brags about her so much. May asks if she'll still be able to use 3 more Pokemon moving on to the next portion, even though neither of her first 2 fainted, and Hoenn says yes, if she wishes. Ultimately, the battle is still open to a 5-on-5 max. Wally thinks that this is perfect, there's no way May can lose now. But Brendan remains cautious. After all, Zigzagoon and Zangoose took a lot of damage in that first battle, so even with the number advantage, things could still be tough. The battle switches to a 1-on-1 format, and May decides to leave Zigzagoon in and recall Zangoose. Luvdisc is the next Pokemon for Hoenn, who confuses Zigzagoon right off the bat with Sweet Kiss. May calls for a Thunderbolt, but in the Raccoon's confusion, he's unable to use the move properly, and is taken down by a single water gun. May praises Zigzagoon for doing so well earlier in the battle, and sends in Slack Off next. Luvdisc uses Water Pulse, and the attack lands a hard hit, and it also leaves Slack Off confused. Slack Off retaliates with Secret Power, which paralyzes Luvdisc. From here, the battle is somewhat of a mess, with the incapacitated Pokemon barely being able to land any attacks. Eventually, a Water Gun lands a clean hit on Slack Off, knocking him into the gym pool. Hoenn tries to finish things off with Water Pulse, but Luvdisc struggles to get the attack off through his paralysis. It seems the splash of water snaps Slack Off out of his confusion, so May then has him swim toward Luvdisc. Luvdisc tries with all his might to fire off the Water Pulse, while Slack Off moves in to use Flail. At the last moment, the pink fish is able to use his attack at close range. The moves both land, and it results in a double knockout. Hoenn sends out his Whiscash, and May is delighted to go with Tropius. She feels she has the perfect advantage, and orders a Solar Beam. The dinosaur begins charging the attack, but Hoenn has a secret weapon. He commands Ice Beam, which lands a major blow against Tropius. May tries to have Tropius keep his distance and launch his attack, but Whiscash dodges. May decides to use Magical Leaf, since the attack can't miss, but his opponent uses Ice Beam to intercept the hit. May feels like she has no choice but to get in close despite the risk, and orders Wing Attack. Hoenn tries to use this chance to command a close-range Hyper Beam. The attack strikes and lands a heavy blow, but Tropius is able to just withstand the attack. With Whiscash having to recharge, Tropius launches a Magical Leaf to take Whiscash out. Hoenn sends out Milotic Blast, and when Choppy is being so tired and weakened, a single twister is able to take him down. May sends out Bayonet next, feeling that maybe she can get the upper hand with some ghost-type trickery. She starts out with a flurry of Shadow Ball attacks, but Milotic's Hydro Pump is able to blast through them all and land a hit on Bayonet. May tries to have Bayonet put Milotic to sleep with Hypnosis, but it dodges underwater and strikes with Iron Tail. May decides that she has to go all out and has Bayonet strike hard with her Thunder attack, which deals a heavy blow. But Milotic uses Recover to heal up from a lot of the damage. Bayonet tries another round of Shadow Balls, but Milotic smacks the attacks right back at the Ghost. It then takes Bayonet out with a final Hydro Pump. May's final Pokemon is Zangoose, and though he's strong, May is concerned considering all the damage he took earlier in the double battle. May hopes he's rested enough to finish things off. Juan has Milotic go in for Iron Tail, but Zangoose intercepts with Crush Claw. Juan tries to order a Twister, and though the attack lands, Zangoose maintains his footing by digging his claws into the pool platform. Juan takes this time to heal with Recover, but Zangoose goes in for Quick Attack. Milotic uses another Hydro Pump, but once again, Zangoose lunges forward to slice straight through the water with Slash. Through Zangoose's determination to win, this attack lands a critical hit, taking Milotic down. With this, May has won her final gym battle. Juan hands over her final badge, the Rain Badge. He compliments her on her battle skills, and says that Norman raised an amazing battler, worthy of living up to his name. May thanks Juan for his kind words. She is thrilled to have won and is excited to head over to the Pokemon League. But before she or the boys can even think of a next move, a loud crash sounds outside. The kids rush outside and are stunned. Out of nowhere, a massive downpour has begun. Rain is flooding Sootopolis City. May and the others are shocked. The weather was peaceful mere moments ago, and now all of a sudden it's storming. Suddenly, to their surprise, a familiar face rushes up to them. It's Katie, the PokeRinger champion. May is naturally surprised to see the girl there, and wonders what she's doing. Katie mentions that she'd been in the city for a few days since winning her final badge. She was just training with her Pokemon when the storm began. Considering the severity of the weather, naturally her first thought was to go to the local gym leader for help. Before he can even say anything, Juan's Pokénav begins ringing, signaling a call coming through. He's surprised when the person on the other end of the line is Steven Stone. He informs the gym leader that the storm is Team Aqua is doing, and in numerous places around Hoenn, a similar storm is brewing. On the other hand, Team Magma has started a massive drought in other places, and it's shown to be the work of the legendary Pokemon Groudon, Master of the Land, and Kyogre, Master of the Sea. Both are battling each other intensely in the middle of the region, and it's causing this massive weather disaster. But the battle is notably violent and incredibly destructive. In some instances, it seems like the Pokemon aren't even aiming attacks at each other for a reason, just blindly wanting to launch an attack at something. The tumultuous weather is causing distress for a lot of people and Pokemon, and Steven is calling on the strongest trainers in the region to help. Wallace says that if Steven wants the strongest trainers, it shouldn't just be the gym leaders or even Elite Four members. All powerful trainers who have proven their strength should be able to help out. Steven is nervous hearing this, fearing normal trainers are too much risk, but Juan chimes in, saying that he was just defeated in a gym battle by a powerful trainer named May. If she and other trainers are strong enough to beat him, they should be able to help out here if they choose. Steven has no choice but to agree. He tells the group that he's aware of Team Aqua and Magma activity in Meteor Falls and Mount Pyre. If they can send strong trainers there, that would be a great help. He meanwhile plans to head directly over to Team Magma and Aqua's bases, though it'll be a struggle to do it alone. Wallace mentions that this situation could possibly be tamed by the legendary Pokemon Rayquaza, Master of the Skies. It's the one that rules over both Groudon and Kyogre. May wonders how on earth they can get to Rayquaza. Wallace explains that it lives in a place called the Sky Pillar, and that if they can get to it, maybe they can ask it for help. From here, they come up with a game plan. Wally will head to Meteor Falls. Brennan will go to Mount Pyre. Wallace will go to Team Magma's hideout. Steven will go to Team Aqua's hideout. And May and Katie will go to Sky Pillar. Juan, meanwhile, will head over to the site of Groudon and Kyogre's battle to monitor the situation. With everyone in agreement, they all split up. This will thus put us into our Team Magma and Team Aqua final arc. In my mind, this would be a pretty long arc, similar to the likes of Episode N in the canon Black and White series. I guess we can call it Episode Emerald or Episode Rayquaza or something like that. You guys can, let me know in the comments. Anyway, there would be a lot of intense action with the crazy weather doing major damage to the Hoenn region. Not to mention, we'd be following the missions of all these characters, with most of the focus going to Brendan, since he has the most hatred for Team Aqua and Team Aqua. Plus, May and Wally will be having their arcs a bit later. I don't want to take too much time with this though. I mean, look how long this video already is. So we're gonna have to just quickly summarize what would happen here, but just know there'll be way more going on. Like I said, this will be a whole arc with many episodes dedicated to it. Again, most of which going to Brendan. We'd start with Wally going to Meteor Falls. Here he'd encounter and battle Courtney. After defeating her with all of his Pokemon, he'd learned that Team Magma's leader, Maxie, was controlling Groudon through the use of a meteor fragment, which was linked to the red orb. Allegedly. Currently, Tabitha was heading to Mount Pyre to get the actual orb and have full control over the Pokemon. Wally would message Brendan about this and tell him to get over there quickly, but before Wally would leave the cave, his Curly would find an odd-looking stone on the ground. Wally would take the stone with him before departing. We'd then follow Wallace at Team Magma's hideout and Steven at Team Aqua's hideout. Matt would be defending Team Aqua's base and get into an intense battle with Steven, though the champion would of course come out on top. Here, Wallace and Steven get a glimpse of Team Magma and Aqua's research and notice something very wrong. Next, we'd see Brendan as he makes his way to and ascends Mount Pyre. After battling numerous grunts along the way, he'd finally encounter Tabitha and Shelly along with hordes upon hordes of their lackeys at the top of the mountain. Brendan would engage in an intense battle against several attacking Pokemon, which in itself would probably last a few episodes. Despite battling his hardest, his team is unable to defeat the sheer amount of Pokemon pit against him. Tabitha and Shelly, in glee, then grab the orbs. However, Tabitha takes the blue orb, and Shelly takes the red orb. As the admins flee in helicopters, Brendan gets a call from Wallace, who informs him that the leaders had been seeking out the incorrect orbs the entire time. This is probably why the Pokemon are battling so wildly. It's a meteor related to the blue orb that Maxie is currently controlling Groudon with. As such, if they get the actual incorrect orbs directly to Groudon and Kyogre, they'll be sure to react even worse. Brendan then calls May and tells her that it's of the utmost importance that she and Katie get to Rayquaza. From here, we'd see Archie and Maxie use their submarines to get close to the skirmish between Kyogre and Groudon. Juan tries to warn them to stop, but he's unable to get through to them. Maxie uses the blue orb on Groudon and commands it to expand Hoenn's landmass, while Archie uses the red orb on Kyogre and orders it to expand the seas and flood the Hoenn region. Naturally, due to the usage of the wrong orbs, this causes both Pokemon to fly into an even greater fury. The weather becomes worse than ever with a combination of a heat wave and thunderstorm tearing across the region. We'll see a montage of the destruction. Trees in Fortree City are set ablaze, water rushes over homes in Sootopolis, and havoc rages everywhere. Maxie and Archie have gone mad with power and simply order their legendary Pokemon to defeat the others so they can achieve full control. At the climax of the arc, we see May and Katie ascending Sky Pillar, desperate to get to Rayquaza. May would be flying with Choppies and Katie with her newly evolved Salamence. From here, May would learn more about Katie and see some more of her Pokemon. She'd learn how Katie became such a strong trainer through her impressively strong Pokemon. May would tell the girl that she's the daughter of one of Hoenn's strongest gym leaders and always wanted to get to the quarterfinals of a Pokemon League, yet at one point struggled with gym battles on the regular, ruining her self-esteem. And Katie would tell May that she also used to struggle with her confidence in the past, but worked with her Pokemon to overcome her issues, using her own unique battle strategy. Once the girls reach the top of Sky Pillar, they'd encounter Rayquaza. After battling Rayquaza to prove their determination, the legendary Pokemon would take them to the center of Groudon and Kyogre's fight. Finally, Wally, Wallace, Brendan, and Steven would unite in the center of Hoenn with Juan, where the vicious battle between the legendary Pokemon was taking place. All the trainers would do everything they can to deflect stray attacks from Groudon and Kyogre, and of course they beg the team leaders to just stop. But at this point, they're beyond reasoning with, and they continue with their battle. Rayquaza would then fly in with May and Katie on his back, and they would fire a Twister at Groudon and a Hyper Beam at Kyogre. The damage would break the orb's hold on them. From there, it would use its airlock ability to calm the detrimental weather that had befallen the region. After a bit more battling from the legendaries, Rayquaza would defeat them, and everything would be calm. With the legendaries back to their senses, they head back to their respective homes. Stephen Stone and Wallace would gather Maxie and Archie with the promise to send them off to Officer Jenny to give them their proper punishment. And with everything saved, the champion and gym leaders would thank the young trainers for their help and wish them luck in their future endeavors. May vows to battle Katie in the league and defeat her, and Katie tells her that she welcomes the challenge, and she feels there's no better place for their battle than in the finals. So the girls promise to both make it to the finals to battle each other in the Evergrande Conference. Wally then remembers the odd stone he found in Meteor Falls, and Steven is stunned to see that it's a Dawn Stone, an item not too often found in the Hoenn region. It can cause certain Pokemon to evolve. This shocks Wally that he discovered such a rare item. And that would conclude episode Rayquaza, or whatever it will be called. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Now, let's round things up. As the region starts to go back to normal, the kids get back to their training. After all, Wally still needs to earn his 5th ribbon, and May will soon be heading to the Pokemon League. The kids head on to an anime-exclusive city, whose cleanup efforts after the weather disaster are nearly complete, and they want to celebrate with a Pokemon contest the following day. Wally of course decides to enter, and spends the whole day training. While working with his Pokemon, Wally remembers the Dawn Stone he has. He knows Eevee is a Pokemon that can evolve with certain stones, so he tries to evolve him with it, but it doesn't work. He then tries to use it on Delcatty. After all, it evolved from Skitty with a Moonstone. Maybe another stone can make it evolve again? But once again, nothing happens. Wally starts to feel like maybe this stone just doesn't work with any of his Pokemon. But he notices the way Kirlia has been staring at the stone since they found it. He hadn't considered Kirlia since he was sure Gardevoir didn't require a stone for an evolution. Still, he offers the stone to the Pokemon anyway. Kirlia takes the stone in his hands and closes his eyes, and to everyone's shock, he begins glowing. Once Kirlia finishes glowing, it's not Gardevoir who stands before him, but a different Pokemon, one none of them are familiar with. They try to consult the Pokédex, but it has no results. This concerns Wally, and he doesn't even know what to call his Pokemon, until he finally speaks and says, Gallade. Wally asks if this is the Pokemon's name, and he nods. Wally is thrilled to have been able to evolve Kirlia into an impressive and rare Pokemon. Okay guys, so I chose to evolve Kirlia into Gallade here for one main reason. The Hoenn Saga very frequently promoted Gen 4 Pokemon across not only the anime, but a few games. Lucario, Weasel, Weavile, Bonsly, Mime Jr., Munchlax, and Manaphy all appeared in Gen 3's anime, and a few of those Pokemon were even owned by main characters. I didn't want to go too crazy with that, I didn't think it was really necessary, but I decided to do something special and add at least one Gen 4 Pokemon to the main cast. And in this case, it was Wally's Gallade. I thought this worked best narratively, so I hope you guys don't mind. The next day, Wally goes through the contest with confidence. He decides to have Gallade perform in the appeal round, and things go perfectly. The audience and judges seem impressed by the rare Pokemon, and he makes it to the battle rounds, which will be double battles. Blaziken and Delcatty demolish their round 1 opponents with their adorable and beautiful attacks. Gallade and Minun follow up nicely in round 2, with Gallade showing off amazing new capabilities in his new, powerful form. Wally notices that Harley has entered as well, and he is doing surprisingly well with a lot of new Pokemon. The finals once again see Wally taking on Harley. Wally uses the all-rounder Kecleon and Tough Eevee against Harley's Cacturne and Wigglytuff. Harley's sinister-looking Pokemon seem stronger than ever, and their contest combinations are quite elegant. But Eevee and Kecleon have great teamwork. Kecleon is able to blend in with her surroundings to disorient and quickly attack Harley's Pokemon, while Eevee uses Double Edge to deal more major damage. Harley's Wigglytuff attempts to avoid attacks by floating through the air, but Kecleon grabs it with her long tongue and strikes with Psybeam. She then slams it into the ground, while Eevee hits Hidden Power. In the end, Wally's combo attacks are simply too much, and he wins the battle with half his points remaining, while Harley's points are nearly gone. Wally wins his 5th ribbon, thus qualifying him for the Grand Festival, much to Harley's rage. And I think this is the perfect spot to have our 4th and final movie. This will be Pokemon Ranger and the Temple of the Sea. Kyogre will have a bit of a larger role here, but aside from that, everything else is pretty much the same. This is why I had Butler summon a real Groudon in our first movie, so we can have one movie feature Groudon and the other feature Kyogre. With this being our final film, this does mean that there will be no Lucario movie, but I honestly feel like that was the most expendable movie, since Lucario isn't even a legendary Pokemon, and neither it nor Mew are really significant to Hoenn. So hopefully you guys aren't too upset about that. After our final movie, we're going to be heading straight into our final episodes, focusing on the Grand Festival arc and the Evergrande Conference arc. Let's start with the Grand Festival. But before things get started, I'm going to say that Birch and Max would have met up with the kids once more in an anime-exclusive town where the professor would be hosting a conference. Before departing, Brendan would ask if Max could stay with him so he could see a Grand Festival and Pokemon League conference in person. Birch agrees, as he thinks it would be a good experience for Max. So the group continues as a quartet for the remainder of the series. Wally spends the rest of his time leading up to the Grand Festival training with all of his Pokemon, and he feels he's set for success. All of the rounds will require 2 Pokemon, so he has all his Pokemon train with each other to ensure that their teamwork is perfect. He also gives them some specialty-made Pokeballs to ensure their best performance. He thinks his team is the best it can be, with Blaziken, the beautiful Firebird, Gallade, the intellectual knight, Delcatty, the adorable feline, Minun, the coolest rodent in Hoenn, Eevee, the tough fluffball, and Kecleon, the all-rounder. He couldn't have picked a better group. The kids head over to Slateport City, where the Grand Festival will be taking place. Wally reunites with Drew and Harley, who have both earned all 5 ribbons. He also encounters the coordinator Soledad, who he first competed against while he and the others were in Kanto. Soledad informs him of a very skilled coordinator named Robert, who is also competing. She warns Wally to keep an eye on him. Wally is somewhat nervous, but doesn't let Soledad's comments throw him off his game. Day 1 is focused solely on the appeal rounds. Drew, Harley, Soledad, and Robert each show off amazing appeals. When it comes to Wally's turn, May, Brennan, and Max are cheering loudly for him in the stands. He decides to have Minun and Kecleon in charge of the appeal. Wally has Kecleon use her ability to change colors in tandem with Minun's colorful electricity, and the appeal is gorgeous. The performance even impresses Robert, along with Wally's other rivals. When the results of the coordinators moving forward are announced, Robert, Soledad, Harley, Drew, and Wally are all shown on the board. Wally cries tears of joy and cheers in glee with his Pokemon backstage. May, Brennan, and Max are likewise thrilled. Day 2 begins the battle rounds, and Wally is first matched against Drew. He uses a Flygon and a Roselia, while Wally uses Gallade and Delcatty. Drew was certain that he had this match in the bag, but he did not anticipate the new moves Wally had his Pokemon learn, specifically to counter his. In particular, his Delcatty has learned Blizzard, which is able to hit both of Drew's Pokemon for major damage. He was also unfamiliar with Gallade as a species, and the Pokemon is able to use his psychic powers to assist Delcatty's move range throughout the battle. Even with Flygon having the advantage of going airborne, Gallade can use Psychic to control and manipulate the dragon. Despite Drew's gorgeous combinations, Wally's Pokemon proved that they had long surpassed him, and when the timer hit 0, Drew was shocked to see that Wally had a considerable lead over him in terms of points. Wally thus moves on to the next round, and he and Drew share a handshake following the battle. Day 3 sees Wally battling Soledad in the quarterfinals. She uses Butterfree and Slowbro. Wally goes with Blaziken and Eevee. The match turns out to be a tough one, with Soledad being a very powerful battler. Slowbro and Butterfree's super effective attacks give Blaziken a hard time, but Eevee is able to level the playing field with his new double team to disorient the opponents and take attacks for Blaziken. Meanwhile, Blaziken uses her new Sunny Day to weaken the water-type attacks from Slowbro. The battle is intense, but Blaziken is able to use a powerful Blaze Kick to defeat Butterfree, causing Soledad to lose a ton of points. She tries to save things with Slowbro, but ultimately, Eevee's Shadow Ball combined with Blaziken's Fire Spin are enough to keep it halted. Wally winds up winning with a decent amount of points more than Soledad. The woman congratulates Wally on his victory, and he moves on to the semifinals. On day 4, Wally is set to battle Harley. The Cacturne-loving man uses his Octillery and Ariados in this battle, while Wally uses his Star Appeal duo of Minun and Kecleon. Harley's Pokemon show the typical harsh battling style that their coordinator is known for, and the battle winds up being extremely intense, but where Harley fails is in his Pokemon's teamwork. Octillery's Octazooka and Fire Blast and Ariados' String Shot are tricky to deal with on their own, but Harley struggled to give the Pokemon commands that showed how they work together. Meanwhile, Minun and Kecleon are like sisters, perfectly in sync. Minun's Thunder and Kecleon's Psybeam continue to form an intense attack, which leaves Octillery and Ariados paralyzed and confused. The duo are able to easily overpower their opponents for the win, leaving Harley furious. Wally compliments Harley on his Pokemon's strength, but advises him to keep their teamwork in mind in the future. Harley is annoyed, but shakes Wally's hand regardless, and replies to his suggestion by saying he'll think about it. The finals take place on day 5, with Wally battling the Star Coordinator Robert. He uses his Milotic and Claydol, while Wally only wants to use 2 Pokemon in particular, Blaziken and Gallade. Robert finds this amusing, considering the massive type disadvantage Blaziken has, but once again, teamwork is Wally's strong suit. Robert has Claydol attempt to hit ground-type attacks on Blaziken, but Gallade uses his psychic powers to levitate Blaziken in the air to avoid the attacks. While in the air, the chicken uses Fire Spin while dancing elegantly, which the audience finds beautiful. The duo then strike with a Flamethrower Psybeam combo, which give Robert's Pokemon some trouble. Milotic and Claydol use a Hyper Beam and Twister combination, set to do big damage to Wally's Pokemon. but Gallade's light screen shields them from some of the damages and creates a beautiful explosion of sparkles to surround Wily's Pokemon. Blaziken then dives in for a newly learned Thunder Punch, but Milotic aims a Hydro Pump right at the bird. But before she can be hit, Gallade uses Teleport to get Blaziken out of the path of the attack, and place her behind the Water Serpent to land the Thunder Punch. Time is running out on the clock, so the coordinators know that they need to make the most of their final attacks. Both are left with about 1/4 of their final scores. Milotic uses Twister, while Clado uses Hidden Power. Meanwhile, Blaziken uses Overheat, and Gallade uses a Shadow Ball Barrage. As the attacks prepare to collide with their targets, at the last second, Gallade uses Teleport on their combination attacks, which causes them to vanish. This means the Twister Hidden Power combo is coming directly at them, with nothing to intercept it. Blaziken grabs Gallade and leaps into the air using her powerful legs, avoiding the attack. From here, Gallade finishes teleporting their attacks to strike Clado and Milotic from above, rather than head-on. As Robert's Pokemon topple over, Wally's land with poses exuding the utmost of beauty and intelligence. The amazing spectacle completely depletes the remainder of Robert's points. Wally is thus deemed the winner of the performance battle and the Grand Festival as a whole. Everyone is shocked, though none more than Wally himself, who falls to his knees crying with joy. Robert never would have expected to be so overpowered by a coordinator with less experience than him, but he praises Wally for his skills. As Wally is awarded his trophy, with all of his Pokemon standing behind him, May, Brennan, and Max are cheering louder than anyone, as they couldn't be prouder of Wally. May told him she knew he'd become a great trainer one day. This win only makes her more fired up to get to the Pokemon League. The kids then make their way to Evergrande City. May had spent every waking moment training all of her Pokemon on the way to the city, and she thinks her Pokemon are ready. She's waited for this moment ever since she and her parents moved from Hoenn all that time ago. It's interesting though. Previously, the only reason she wanted to compete was to prove that she could make it farther in the league than Jimmy did in the Silver Conference. But now, things are deeper than that. She wants to get to the farthest point in the league, to battle and defeat Katie. The two promise each other a battle in the finals, and May intends to fulfill that promise. May reunites with Katie the day before the conference begins, and she also meets a couple of other competitors named Morrison and Tyson. May is intrigued by Tyson, mainly due to his boots-wearing Meowth, which appears strong. Morrison, on the other hand, doesn't seem like much of a threat. He seems kind of goofy. May doesn't worry too much about him. Honestly, her only mission is ensuring that she doesn't lose before battling Katie. Katie encourages May, saying that the trainer who was able to save the entire Hoenn region with the help of the legendary Rayquaza is surely a force to be reckoned with. She can't wait to battle May in the final round. Now, let's speed the earlier rounds up. We don't need battle montages this time around, since we only have one main character competing, so let's just quickly summarize the early battles. The league opens with preliminary rounds, featuring one-on-one battles. May is matched against a trainer named Gilbert. He uses a Hitmonlee, so May uses her Swellow. The battle is pretty one-sided, mainly thanks to Swellow's type advantage. She's able to avoid nearly all of Hitmonlee's attacks in the air, and then strike back with powerful aerial aces and wing attacks. May wins this battle and makes it to the qualifying rounds. It is announced that the qualifying round battles will all be double battles. May is fine with this, especially since she's been working a lot with her Pokemon's double battle skills lately. She notices that Morrison, Tyson, and of course Katie have made it to the qualifying rounds as well. May is excited to see how far they all get. In the top 128, May battles a trainer named Clark, who uses Quilava and Charizard. May decides to use Zangoose and Slakoth. While the two fire types put up an intense battle, Zangoose once again shows off his intense strength as he tears through the two opponents with his powerful Crush Claw and Razor Wind. Slakoth has more of a supportive role, using his small size and nimble abilities to jump onto Charizard's back and strike his wings with secret power, preventing him from going airborne. Quilava uses Flame Wheel to knock Slakoth away, but this was all part of May's plan. The small sloth uses Counter to finish off Quilava. With Clark taken off guard, Zangoose is free to slice Charizard with a critical slash. Charizard doesn't give up, and tries to strike hard with Steel Wing. But Zangoose and Slakoth use a Crush Claw and Flail combo to defeat Charizard. Katie is impressed by May's skills, as she effortlessly makes it through her battle as well. In the top 64, May battles a trainer named Dominic, with his Tropius and Swalot. May uses her duo of Zangoose and Castform. Since she is a Tropius, she knows how they battle. She has Castform use Sunny Day to take on her Fire-type form, and from there, she has Castform pelt Tropius with Weather Ball and Flamethrower as much as she can, but Dominic's Tropius is able to move faster to avoid many attacks thanks to Chlorophyll. Zangoose meanwhile tries to handle Swalot, but its interesting body type allows it to resist most of the sharp blows from Zangoose's claws. This irritates Zangoose and has him battle more recklessly, much to May's dismay. Things start to look bleak until May takes a page from Wally's book and uses a combination attack. She has Zangoose slash through Castform's flamethrower to use a fiery Crush Claw to defeat Swalot. And once the sunlight fades and Choppies is back to normal speed, a back-to-back Flamethrower and Razor Wind from both Pokemon give May the win. Morrison and Tyson are impressed by May using contest skills in her battle and keep note of it in case they wind up facing her. But Katie also points out that May has a lot of Pokemon to work with, so it'll be a task in keeping track of May's full roster. In the top 32, May is pit against Gavin. He uses a Marowak and Machamp, while May perfectly counters with Pelipper and Bayonet. May once again is in control for the entire battle, thanks to her type advantages. Machamp is pretty powerless against the Ghost-type Bayonet, who focuses on putting Marowak to sleep with Hypnosis, then using Nightmare to constantly injure him. This allows Pelipper to strike Machamp with Wing Attack, while Bayonet pelts him with Shadow Ball. Unable to land a hit on his opponents, he falls in defeat from a Hydro Pump, leaving only Marowak. Marowak wakes up to a Hydro Pump to the face from Pelipper. He tries to take on Bayonet with Bone Club, but the devious Ghost uses Snatch to take the bone away. Pelipper then hits a Water Pulse from behind, dealing a major hit. Just like his partner before him, Marowak is powerless to the final strike, which winds up being Bayonet striking him in the head with his own weapon. May is declared the winner and is guaranteed a spot in the final rounds. Morrison, Tyson, and Katie also make it to the final rounds, and all are equal to see how things go moving forward. It is announced that the final rounds will all be full battles. May is fully prepared for this. After all, she has more than enough Pokemon to use so that she can avoid having Pokemon fight in 3 back-to-back battles. If she can make it through the next few battles, she'll have officially surpassed Jimmy. As May checks to see who she'll be facing first, it turns out to be Morrison. May has kept track of a lot of the Pokemon Morrison has used and seen him training in between matches, so she thinks she has the perfect lineup in mind to face him. The following morning, May and Morrison head to the battlefield, where Morrison enthusiastically proclaims that while May is strong, he'll be the winner of this battle. May tells Morrison that she is excited for this battle, and that she knows that she's going to win. Even though May has kept an eye on Morrison's battles and hasn't found him all too impressive, internally, she reminds herself that she can't be overconfident. Overconfidence has always been her downfall. She needs to get through this in order to get to her true goal, Katie. The battlefield will be an ice field to start things off. Eager to get right into the battle, Morrison sends out his first choice, Growlithe, and May counters with her Zigzagoon. Growlithe starts things off with a flamethrower, but Zigzagoon dodges by jumping out of the way. He rushes in for a headbutt, but the little raccoon slips and slides on the icy ground, crashing into an ice pillar. Morrison takes this chance to order takedown, which lands a powerful hit. May commands a Thunderbolt, but Growlithe is able to dodge by using Agility. Morrison then commands a Flame Wheel. May tries to have Zigzagoon dodge, but he struggles to do so. A Flame Wheel has them both colliding into an ice pillar, causing it to melt slightly. From this, May gets an idea. She has Zigzagoon stand on an ice pillar. Morrison calls for Flamethrower, but May simply has Zigzagoon dodge by jumping from pillar to pillar. Morrison sees this as useless, since the pillars will eventually just melt. He continues until Growlithe notices that he is now standing in water. May then orders a Thunderbolt, which Growlithe dodges with Agility, but unfortunately, he winds up slipping and tumbling around in the water. A second Thunderbolt, fired at the now water-soaked canine, takes it down, giving May the first win of the match. This stuns Morrison and instantly throws him off his game. In a panic, he tries to quickly recover by sending out his Giraffe Rig. May swaps out Zigzagoon for Mightyena. Morrison has Giraffe Rig use Light Screen, while May sends Mightyena for it with Crunch. The attack is slightly weakened, because remember, Dark-type moves were special in Gen 3. But being that it's a super effective attack, Giraffe Rig still takes a lot of damage. Morrison commands Iron Tail, and May tells Mightyena to use Dig to dodge. Unfortunately, she struggles to dig a hole on the frozen battlefield, so she takes an Iron Tail to the head. Mightyena tries to recover by hitting another Crunch, but only manages to latch onto Giraffe Rig's tail. At this point though, May is fine by this, and calls for a Hyper Beam. The point-blank hit slams into Giraffe Rig, blasting it into the air, and landing in the center of the battlefield unconscious. From the stands, Brennan and Wally praise May's impressive battling, and Katie points out that Morrison could have done better had he simply swapped his Pokemon for a better type matchup. May thanks Mightyena for the win and recalls her for now. Morrison is even more frustrated to have not taken out a Pokemon yet and sends in his Gligar. May sends Zigzagoon back in. She calls for a headbutt, but Gligar is able to easily dodge in the air. Morrison has the Pokemon dive in for a Steel Wing, which lands a hard hit. May tries to go for Secret Power, but Morrison decides that now is the time for a secret weapon. He orders Guillotine, and the move takes Zigzagoon down in a single hit. This horrifies Brennan and Wally, as they know this move is incredibly dangerous. Morrison is simply glad to have finally fainted one of May's Pokemon. May thanks Zigzagoon for his earlier victory and sends out Mawile next. Morrison commands an Iron Tail, while Mawile charges up a Focus Punch. The attacks collide, with May's Pokemon having the slight edge. Gligar swoops in and lands a few hard Steel Wings, but Mawile is able to resist the hits. The damage is building up though, and a hit to the stomach has Mawile slipping down on the ice. From here, Morrison sees his chance and orders Guillotine. Mawile struggles to get back to her feet, but at the last second, May calls for Mawile to catch Gligar in her jaws. The Pokemon successfully does so, shocking the audience. May then orders an Ice Beam, which decimates Gligar at such a close range, giving May another win over Morrison. With Morrison losing half of his team, the match stops for halftime. During the halftime break, Tyson has a talk with Morrison and urges him to focus and not let his losses throw him off. Meanwhile, Max praises May for doing so well. Brennan and Wally remind May that even though she's winning now, to not get in over her head. May assures them that she won't. The battle continues with the battlefield changing from ice to grass. May brings out Mawile again, and Morrison goes with his Steelix. With Morrison's fired up spirit, he urges Steelix to battle with all of his might. May starts with a Focus Punch, but Steelix intercepts the hit with Iron Tail, flinging the small Pokemon back into the ground. The large Pokemon then dives on the ground for a dig attack, which lands into Mawile for a quick knockout. Despite the obvious circumstances, May is still stunned by how quickly Mawile lost. But May is still in the lead, so she doesn't freak out. She sends out Tropius next, feeling an aerial fighter will do better. She starts off by ordering a Solar Beam. Tropius charges this attack quickly, but Steelix intercepts it with Dragon Breath. The attack overpowers Tropius, and he becomes paralyzed from the blast. May tries to keep her cool and commands Magical Leaf. The attack does hit Steelix, but he barely seems phased. The massive Pokemon then slams an Iron Tail into the Grass Dinosaur, as he's too slow to dodge. Tropius is still standing and tries another last-ditch Magical Leaf aimed at Steelix's neck. It still really doesn't do too much damage to the metallic snake, and a final Dragon Breath defeats Tropius. May is now really feeling the pressure, while Morrison is more confident than ever. Brennan is stunned that May lost 2 Pokemon in a row, and hopes she can recover from this. May decides to send out her most reliable Pokemon, her first Pokemon, Swampert. Morrison doesn't want to stop Steelix while he's on a roll, so he goes right in with Dragon Breath, but Swampert blocks the move with Protect. Morrison decides to switch to Dig. May knows the Protect won't last much longer, but she quickly tells Swampert to listen for Steelix underground. Swampert does so, and right before Steelix resurfaces, she jumps out of the way. May then commands a Muddy Water, which strikes Steelix for big damage. The Pokemon is hurled backward, and Swampert follows up with a Mud Shot, taking Steelix down. May is thrilled to have gotten back in the game. Morrison doesn't let this stop him though, and he says that he'll bring things back in his favor. He then sends out his Blaziken. Alright everyone, put down your pitchforks and torches and let me explain. I swapped out Morrison's Swampert for a Blaziken for one simple reason. Blaziken was the only final stage Hoenn starter who didn't appear in the canon Hoenn League, which I thought was kinda sad. Morrison originally had a Swampert, but here May has one. I really didn't feel the need to have 2 of them, so Morrison's Swampert is going to be cheering from the PC today as his friend Blaziken takes part in this battle. Anyway, May is shocked to see Morrison go into another battle with a type disadvantage, but does not let this distract her. Since May is familiar with the way Blaziken battles thanks to Wally, she feels that she should be able to get through this. Blaziken, however, proves itself to be a force to be reckoned with. He starts off with a powerful Dynamic Punch, which leaves Swampert confused right off the bat. May tries to order Mud Shot, but Swampert misses every hit in her confusion. This allows Blaziken to hit several hard Mega Kicks, knocking Swampert around. A Blaziken further hurts Swampert with a Burn, wearing her down even more. May begs for Swampert to break free and use Protect, but this fails. May is panicking, but out of nowhere, Swampert begins glowing bright blue, her Torrent ability activating. This does unnerve Morrison, so he decides to finish things off with a Mega Kick. As Blaziken slams his foot into Swampert's head, the Mudfish snaps out of her confusion and hits a close-range, powered-up Muddy Water. The attack takes Blaziken down, but by now, Swampert has taken far too much damage, and she topples over as well, meaning it's a double knockout. Morrison only has 1 Pokemon left, while May has 2, though one has already battled and taken damage. May sends that Pokemon out, Mightyena. Morrison's final choice is his Matang, and it goes in for takedown, which deals a hard hit, but May has Mightyena hit back with a hard crunch. May commands Mightyena to use Dig, but Morrison tells Mightyena to fly up to avoid the attack, and then strike a powerful Meteor Mash. The extremely hard hit smacks Mighty Henna, but she manages to get back to her feet. Sadly, all she can do is lunge forward for another crunch, which Metang slams through with takedown for the win. Now it's just a one-on-one. Katie is curious if May will be able to pull through. This final choice will be everything. Morrison is a bit confident, as with Swampert out of the battle, he's pretty sure May doesn't have any more Pokemon which can handle steel types. But May smirks and sends out Castform. Morrison's quickly returning memory of Castform's earlier battle now has him nervous, since he now knows what's coming. Castform uses Sunny Day to transform into her Fire-type form. Morrison tries to keep calm and orders confusion. Metang uses its psychic powers to slam Castform around, but the small Pokemon recovers and uses a powerful flamethrower. Metang takes a hard hit, but charges back in for another Meteor Mash. May orders Weather Ball, but Metang smacks the attack right back at Castform. She takes a bit of damage, but the following Meteor Mash hits harder. May orders Flamethrower, but Morrison commands another Confusion to take control of the attack. This reminds May of the combination attacks Wally would use with Blaziken and Gallade in the Grand Festival and all throughout his contest journey. Inspired, she has Castform begin dancing through the fire, and this elegant display ends up distracting Morrison and Metang. May has Castform spin around and begin firing off Weather Balls, and in a daze, Metang rushes to dodge. In his rush to simply avoid the hits, Metang doesn't notice as Castform fires another Flamethrower, which slams it clean in the face. Metang falls in defeat, giving May the win. Cheers erupt for May, with Max, Brennan, and Wally thrilled, and Tyson and Katie impressed. May and Morrison greet each other in the center of the battlefield, and Morrison thanks May for the battle. May compliments Morrison, saying that she got scared halfway through and was concerned that she might actually lose. Morrison tells May that at this point, she needs to win the whole thing. After her battle, May checks on Katie's results. She's not at all surprised to see that she won. In fact, it turns out that Katie didn't even wind up using her full team of 6 Pokemon against her opponent, showing how strong she really is. The semi-final matchups are announced that evening, and it turns out that May will be battling Tyson the next day. Tyson and his Meowth approach May and promise a great battle. She tells him that she looks forward to it. The next day, the semi-finals begin, with Katie taking on her opponent. To no one's surprise, she wins effortlessly. Once again, she doesn't even need to use her full team for this battle, intimidating May, but she can't worry about that now. Katie has earned her spot in the finals, so May only has one person standing in her way of taking on Katie, and that's Tyson. May makes her way to the battlefield, where it's time for her to battle her final league obstacle. Tyson tells May that he studied her battling, and he thinks he has what it takes to defeat her. May is a bit more nervous than when she faced Morrison, since Tyson showed off a high level of competence from the start. Still, May goes into the battle calm and prepared. She thinks her chosen lineup will be good for his team. The battle is a grass field to start things off. Tyson sends out his Donphan, and May goes with Tropius. Katie wonders if Tyson will switch to a Pokemon with a type advantage, but her question is answered, as the match commences with no changes. May orders Tropius to use Wing Attack, but Tyson calls for a Sandstorm. Tropius' vision is blocked, so he can't land his attack properly. Tyson then calls for a Rollout. May feels that Tropius should be safe since he's in the air, but Donphan launches himself up to strike for the powerful attack. May decides to switch to Magical Leaf since the move can't miss, but Tyson is prepared and has Donphan barrel straight through the rollout and land another hit. Tropius then slams into the ground. May doesn't want to risk things getting too out of hand, so she recalls Tropius for Breloom. Breloom is immediately disoriented by the Sandstorm, so Tyson decides to keep up the pressure and continues with Rollout. Breloom takes a couple of hits, but eventually she manages to hop in the air to dodge, and then use her long arms to strike with Mach Punch as Donphan rolls by. This knocks Donphan off his course and has him slamming into the ground. The Sandstorm fades, and May then has Breloom strike with a Giga Drain, which deals a major hit. Before the elephant can get back up, Breloom hits with a Sky Uppercut to take it out. May once again gets the first win, though it did result in her Pokemon taking a few hard hits first. Tyson sends out his Sceptile next, and Brendan is excited to see another Sceptile battle. May's Breloom starts off with a flurry of Mach Punches, but Sceptile dodges each punch with Detect. Breloom becomes tired, and then Sceptile uses a close-range Leaf Blade to slice the Grass Kangaroo. Tyson orders a Bullet Seed, but Breloom punches the attack away with another rapid Mach Punch. Tyson decides to go big and orders a Solar Beam. May has Breloom try Giga Drain, but she gets blasted away by the Solar Beam. Breloom rises to her feet, though she's struggling to stay standing. Sceptile likewise is becoming tired. Tyson orders another Leaf Blade, but Breloom intercepts the hit with Sky Uppercut. The Pokemon continue duking it out, punching and slashing at each other with the utmost intensity. At this point, neither even attempts to dodge, both simply wanting to take the other down with their bare hands. Tyson and May each call for their Pokemon to power through. Breloom and Sceptile strike with a final Leaf Blade and Mach Punch to each other's face, and the two glare intensely at each other, before they both topple to the ground, unconscious. Tyson is now down 2, and May is down 1. She still has the advantage here. Tyson sends in his Hariyama next, and May sends out Pelipper. Once again, May has a type advantage, but by this point, Tyson has shown that his Pokemon can battle through a disadvantage perfectly fine, so May remains focused. May starts with Hydro Pump, but Hariyama can use Arm Thrust through the blast of water to land a hit on the bird. May orders a few close-range wing attacks, but Hariyama's bulk allows him to remain steady. He even manages to charge and strike a Focus Punch for a big hit. May tries to have Pelipper keep his distance and use Water Pulse from afar. Hariyama is able to smack most hits away, but a few do manage to land. Pelipper aims a Hydro Pump at the ground in front of Hariyama, which knocks him over. Pelipper is then free to strike with several hard wing attacks. As the Pelican goes in for one more, Tyson has Hariyama strike with a hard Thunder Punch, shocking May. No pun intended. Pelipper is severely hurt, but manages to remain strong. Hariyama is also feeling the exhaustion, though. May orders a Water Pulse at the ground, and the blast sends a wave toward Hariyama. Hariyama destroys it with Arm Thrust, but as the water is dissipated, Pelipper is gone. Hariyama is stunned, and in that moment, Pelipper dives down for a wing attack from above. The Water Pulse was simply a cover for Pelipper to get up high undetected. He lands his hit for the knockout, giving May yet another win, bringing the battle to halftime. During the break, Brendan, Max, and Wally note their excitement, considering the huge advantage May has, but May is anything but relaxed. Her Pokemon have taken a lot of damage despite their wins, and she knows Tyson has even stronger Pokemon lying in wait. Tyson is truly a powerful opponent, so May does not lower her guard. Returning to the match, the new battlefield is a rock terrain. Tyson sends out his Shiftry, while May goes with Tropius. Tropius is slightly tired from the earlier battle, but May has confidence that he'll do well. Katie notices Tyson's overconfident smirk, however. It seems he's not concerned about the position he's in. Shiftry starts with a Shadow Ball Barrage. Tropius tries to dodge by going airborne, but Shiftry shows off his extreme speed and precision, landing several hits. Tropius goes in for wing attack, but Shiftry dodges and lands a strong Mega Kick. Tropius is truly feeling tired, but May tells Tropius that she knows he can pull through. She orders a Solar Beam, but Tyson tells Shiftry to be ready to dodge it. The beam is launched, but Tropius aims at one of the rocky pillars at May's command. The beam destroys the rock, causing huge rock fragments to fly through the air, hitting Shiftry and knocking it over. May then has Tropius quickly go in for a wing attack, and the attack lands before Shiftry can dodge, awarding May her 4th win. By this point, things are so far in May's favor that losing seems impossible, but Tyson still seems completely unconcerned, which has May beyond nervous, and it seems she had every reason to be, as Tyson sends out his Metagross. May has seen this Pokemon battling in Tyson's earlier matches, so she knows how strong it is, and she approaches with caution. She orders a Magical Leaf, but Tyson's Metagross blasts both the attack and Tropius away with Psychic. Tropius slams into the stadium wall for the knockout. May thanks Tropius for working so hard in the battle and recalls him before sending Pelipper back out. Pelipper is also exhausted from battling Hariyama, but he doesn't let the tiredness stop him. He uses a Water Pulse, but Metagross sends it right back with confusion. The hit confuses Pelipper, which causes him to hurtle into the ground. May calls out to Pelipper, who tries to regain his composure, but it's pointless as a Meteor Mash pummels the bird and sends him into a rock pillar, defeated. It seems this was Tyson's plan all along, Katie thinks. Wear out a bunch of May's Pokemon with his earlier teammates, so his powerful Metagross can come in and finish them off. In an instant, May is now down to 3 Pokemon, but she still has the edge over Tyson. She sends in Mightyena next, a good choice as she is immune to Metagross' psychic attacks, Brendan thinks. But Wally feels like this will barely be a hindrance for Metagross. Mightyena goes for Dig right off the bat, but Tyson has Metagross jump on the rock pillar. Mightyena isn't nearly strong enough to break through the rock pillar, so she has no choice but to resurface behind it, allowing Metagross to hit a close Meteor Mash. This knocks Mightyena back and has her crashing into another rock pillar, destroying it. This gives May an idea. She has Mightyena use Double Team. Mightyena's clones rush around the battlefield, and Tyson has Mightyena go after all of them with Meteor Mash. Mightyena and the clones use Dig, and while many of them are taken down before they can strike, others are able to land their hits before being destroyed by Metagross. Additionally, the metallic beast winds up destroying most of the rock pillars as it brawls all those hyenas. Tyson is tired of this and tells Metagross to simply barrel through the clones with Meteor Mash, and May orders a combination of Double Team and Crunch. Metagross is mauled by an entire pack of Mightyena biting down all over it, but it pushes them back with Meteor Mash. May orders Mightyena to use Dig once more. With no more rock pillars to hide behind, Metagross can only fly through the air to avoid the attacks, but this fails as there are more than enough Double Team clones to eventually land some hits. After all that flying and clone destroying, Metagross is now tired, as is Tyson, and orders a Hyper Beam to finish the hyena off. May then has Mightyena strike with the same move. The attacks collide for a massive explosion, and when the smoke clears, both Pokemon are now down. It's now 2 versus 1 in May's favor. But Morrison points out that Tyson's final Pokemon is his strongest, so May still needs to be careful. Tyson sends out Meowth, and May retaliates with Zigzagoon. May calls for a Thunderbolt, but Meowth intercepts with the same attack. Zigzagoon rushes in for a headbutt, but Meowth uses Double Team to avoid the attack. May tries to have Zigzagoon use Thunderbolt to destroy the clones, but most of them intercept with their own Thunderbolt, and they wind up overpowering Zigzagoon for a powerful hit. May orders Secret Power, and Zigzagoon strikes several of the clones, but misses the main Meowth, who hits with an Iron Tail. May is truly impressed by Meowth's power. Zigzagoon tries for one more headbutt, but a final critical hit slash takes the raccoon down, with Meowth not having taken a single hit. It's now a 1v1. Just like last time, May's large lead was easily turned around, and this time, May doesn't have the type advantage for her final choice. Still, it is a powerful Pokemon, and it winds up being Slack Off. Tyson calls for Thunderbolt, but May's oddly quick Slack Off avoids the hit. Tyson then has Meowth go in for an Iron Tail, but Slack Off simply takes the hit and strikes back with a hard counter. This unnerves Tyson, but he feels Meowth can get through this. He tries to use Double Team to get the advantage, and then strike hard with Slash. May tells Slack Off to remain calm, and the Pokemon braces for the hit. As Meowth rushes over, in his calm state, Slack Off is able to determine the true Meowth. Slash lands, but Slack Off is able to land another counter at the real Meowth. Both Pokemon are hurt, so Tyson prepares to order Thunderbolt. But before he can, May interrupts and calls for Encore. Tyson tries to command the electric attack, but due to Encore, the cat is unable to use the move. All he can do is use Slash, placing him firmly in May's trap. Still, her Pokemon is noticeably tired. With no other options, Tyson calls for the strongest Slash Meowth has ever used to finish the opponent off. May, knowing that Slack Off is very weak, orders him to use Flail. Meowth extends all of the claws on both paws and dives in for his attack at a breakneck speed. Slack Off meanwhile flails his body around and begins glowing brightly. He then charges in for a powerful punch, faster than any other Slack Off on the planet. The two Pokemon collide, with Meowth's claw striking Slack Off's entire body, while his punch hits Meowth in the face. This has both the cat and Sloth crumbling to the ground. May and Tyson call out to their Pokemon to get back up. Both struggle back to their feet as they glare angrily at each other. Meowth has made it to his feet first, but is panting heavily, while Slack Off is still hunched over. The referee prepares to call the match in Meowth's favor, but the cat soon falls to his knees before hitting the ground face first. Meanwhile, Slack Off manages to rise up and lets out a loud battle cry. The referee calls the battle for May. As she's deemed the winner, it means she'll be the one facing Katie in the finals. Brendan, Max, and Wally cheer loudly for May as she rushes to the battlefield to sweep up Slack Off for a hug. May is thrilled beyond belief over her win. She can't believe it. She's made it to the finals. To think, the only thing she wanted to do when she started her journey was to get to the top 8. And now, she's going to be battling in the finals to become the league winner. And just as she wanted it, it's going to be Katie, who she's battling for this opportunity. She thanks Tyson for the battle, and he likewise compliments her on her impressive skills. He tells her that he's rooting for her to bring out Katie's full power and finally give her an equal opponent. Katie and May greet each other before the match, and each proclaims that they hope that this match will be the best they've ever had. May is a bit nervous, but tries not to let it show. Katie meanwhile tells May that she's excited to see how this match will go. The battlefield will be a rock field to start. The girls each toss out their Pokemon at the same time. Katie starts by sending out her Dugtrio, and May sends out Breloom. May orders a Mach Punch right off the bat, but Dugtrio dodges with Dig. Breloom tries to hop away to dodge, but Dugtrio is extremely fast and strikes her. May tells Breloom to use Giga Drain, but Dugtrio blocks it with Sand Tomb. The Sand Tomb surrounds Breloom, and this is where Katie switches Dugtrio with her Venomoth. May has been following all of Katie's matches, so she's well aware of Katie's strategy of switching for the advantage in battle, but May can't switch since Breloom is trapped in the sand tomb. Venomoth starts off with Stun Spore, which it disperses through the top of the sand tomb, so Breloom is not only trapped and taking constant damage, but also paralyzed. May has Breloom use a rapid fire Mach Punch to eliminate the sand tomb. She then has Breloom go in for a Sky Uppercut. Her Pokemon leaps up for the attack, but Katie then has Venomoth blow Breloom to the ground with Silver Wind. The powerful attack has Breloom hurtling into the center of the battlefield. Breloom manages to rise to her feet despite the major amount of damage. May tries to order a Giga Drain, but Breloom struggles to even execute the move in her paralyzed state, and a follow-up Aerial Ace takes May's first Pokemon down. Brendan, Max, and Wally are stunned. This is May's first full battle, where she didn't get the first win of the match. Katie is truly going to be the trainer to push May to her limits. May recalls Breloom, thanking her for a job well done, before sending out Mawile. Katie immediately switches Venomoth out for Dugtrio though. Dugtrio starts out with a powerful Double Edge, but Mawile intercepts with Focus Punch. Both Pokemon are knocked back, but Dugtrio uses a quick Sand Tomb to trap Mawile. May tells Mawile to use Ice Beam straight through the Sand Vortex, but Katie has Dugtrio dodge with Dig. May knows it'll be dangerous if Mawile is hit with Dig, while also taking damage from Sand Tomb, so she commands Mawile to jump up and use Ice Beam on the ground beneath her. Mawile does so, creating an Ice Pillar, meaning when Dugtrio attempts to resurface, it can't get through to Mawile. May then orders Mawile to jump out of the Sand Tomb, and Katie tells Dugtrio to maneuver around to land Dig on Mawile when she lands. The Dig does actually land, dealing a massive hit on Mawile, but this is when Mawile grabs Dugtrio with Vice Grip. May then orders an Ice Beam, and since Dugtrio is clamped in Mawile's jaws, it takes the hit head-on, much like Morrison Gligar, suffering a major blow. Amazingly, the Pokemon remain standing. Katie orders another Sand Tomb, but this time May has Mawile use Rain Dance, and the water destroys the Sand Tomb. Katie knows Dugtrio isn't the best in Rain, but figures that Mawile is super weak, so she calls for one more Double Edge, while May commands Focus Punch. The attacks collide, just as they did in the beginning of the match, but this time, both Pokemon are knocked out. With this, May is down 2 Pokemon, but at least Katie is now down 1. May remains calm, and sends out her Bayonet next, while Katie goes with Golduck. This has Brennan and Wally nervous, as Golduck's Water-type moves will now hit harder in the rain. May starts by ordering Shadow Ball, but Golduck fires straight through the attack with Hydro Pump, and lands a hard hit on Bayonet. Katie smugly thanks May for putting up a Rain Dance, since it'll now help her Golduck out. Golduck then grabs Bayonet with Confusion, and slams her into the ground several times. May has Bayonet use Hypnosis, but Golduck uses Disable to block the attack. It then hits another strong Hydro Pump. Bayonet is hit hard and struggles to her feet. Katie tells May that she best give up, because she's effectively handed her a free win. But May surprises everyone by smirking. She tells Katie that while the Rain Dance may have helped her Golduck, it'll benefit Bayonet even more. Everyone is confused until May orders a Thunder. Katie is stunned and prepares to order Golduck to dodge, but knows that it's no use since Thunder will always land in the rain. Bayonet fires a powerful blast of lightning at Golduck, frying the Pokemon and sending it toppling to its knees. Bayonet follows up with a massive Shadow Ball and takes Golduck down. The rain then ends. Katie is shocked as she had no idea May's Bayonet knew Thunder. Bayonet laughs mischievously in joy over her win as May praises the Pokemon. Katie likewise compliments May on such a strategy, but she says the battle is far from over. Tyson knows that the battle is tied, so the next win is important. Morrison, Brendan, Max, and Wally root for May to keep up the pressure. Katie sends in her Scizor next. May has Bayonet use Hypnosis, but Scizor dodges with Quick Attack. May commands Bayonet to use Shadow Ball, but Katie tells Scizor to use Double Team to disorient the Ghost. Bayonet fires off a few attacks, but only winds up hitting clones. Bayonet becomes frustrated over not being able to recognize the correct opponent, so she begins hurling Shadow Balls at random. May tells Bayonet to relax, but by now, Katie has Scizor use Metal Claw. The attack strikes Bayonet in the back, landing a powerful enough blow to take her down. With this, the match goes to halftime. Brendan, Max, and Wally tell May not to worry. Katie only has a 1 Pokemon lead. May can still turn things around. May thanks the boys for their encouragement, and she heads back to the field. As the match resumes, the arena changes to a water battlefield. Katie sends out her Venomoth first, so May counters with Swellow, as she knows how tricky an opponent Venomoth is. Katie tries a Supersonic, but May has Swellow dodge and use Wing Attack. Katie quickly calls Venomoth back and brings Scizor back in. Katie starts out with Double Team, but May Swallow is able to strike through all the duplicates with a speedy Aerial Ace. Katie orders Hidden Power, which hits Swallow hard, but she remains strong. Katie commands Metal Claw and May orders Aerial Ace. The Pokemon collide, and both are hit back hard, but Swallow manages to knock Scizor down into the water. Katie tells her Pokemon to get out, but May commands her bird to dive down for a follow-up wing attack for the knockout. May is thrilled over getting another win over Katie. She recalls Swallow so that she can get some rest. Katie meanwhile sends in her Walrein. May decides to use Zangoose next. Walrein starts out strong with an Ice Beam, but Zangoose dodges by jumping across the pool platforms for a Crush Claw. The attack barely seems to phase the bulky Walrus, who strikes back with a close-range Ice Ball. Zangoose takes a big hit, but remains standing. May commands Slash, but Walrein dodges by jumping into the pool water. He then moves underwater, where Zangoose can't see him. This unnerves May, and Katie tells Walrein to jump out and use Body Slam. The huge Walrus leaps out from behind Zangoose and strikes him for big damage. May tells Zangoose to get up and use Razor Wind. He does so, but Walrein can once again dodge by leaping into the water. May commands Zangoose to aim his attack at the water to get Walrein to resurface. As the Razor Wind hits the water, Walrein is blasted upward, but Katie doesn't hesitate and orders an Ice Beam. May tells Zangoose to dodge and to hit the water with Razor Wind once again. The water is splashed and hit by the Ice Beam, completely freezing it solid. This stuns the audience, and Brendan praises May for her quick thinking. Zangoose now has more mobility on the new ice field, so May orders a quick attack, but Katie counters with Mimic, causing the Pokemon to strike each other repeatedly with the same move. Katie commands Ice Ball, but May has Zangoose dodge and use Slash. The attack hits, but Walrein still remains standing. The Pokemon collide with Quick Attack and Mimic once again, but at one point, Zangoose slips on the ice and falls. Katie makes the most of this opportunity by ordering a finishing Body Slam, but May has Zangoose dodge by sliding out of the way at the last second. Zangoose is able to build up momentum by sliding on the ice, and he circles back to land a powerful Crush Claw, finally defeating Walrein. The battle is now finally in May's favor, since she now has 3 Pokemon remaining to Katie's 2. That said, 2 of May's Pokemon have taken a lot of prior damage, so she'll need to be careful. Katie sends out Venomoth once again. The Pokemon starts with Stun Spore, and May tells Zangoose to dodge, which he does. May calls for a Slash, but Venomoth can easily dodge by flying higher in the air. Zangoose begins falling to the ground, and Katie commands a Silver Wind. This attack, combined with the impact of Zangoose colliding into the ice, takes him down. May sends Swallow back in, and to her surprise, Katie doesn't recall her bug type. She orders Supersonic, and May has Swallow dodge and use Wing Attack. Katie orders a Sun Spore, and May remembers Swallow's Guts ability. She tells Swallow to rush straight forward to take the attack. Her bird does so and becomes paralyzed. Katie tries to use this opportunity to order Silver Wind. The attack hits the slower opponent, but eventually Swallow breaks through the paralysis to hit a powered-up Facade, taking down Venomoth. This is unheard of. Hoenn Star Trainer Katie is now down to her final Pokemon, but May does not let her guard down, because she already knows what this Pokemon is. Katie sends out her Salamence. May knows that Swallow is now slower than usual, but orders an Aerial Ace anyway. Sadly, the lowered speed costs her, as Salamence can easily intercept the attack with Dragon Claw. Swallow falls onto the frozen field, but makes it back to her feet. May calls for a Facade, but Salamence is fast enough to use an Aerial Ace of its own for the knockout. May is left with only 1 Pokemon left. She sends out her very first Pokemon, Kipper the Swampert. Swampert and Salamence stare each other down on the battlefield. This match will determine who wins the Evergrande Conference, audience favorite and pride of Lily Cove, Katie, or newcomer to the region and daughter of Norman, May. Katie starts by ordering a Dragon Claw, but May has Swampert dodge and use Muddy Water. Salamence avoids the hit in the air and dives down for a powerful Aerial Ace, which hits hard. Katie orders a Dragon Breath, but May has Swampert use Protect to block the attack. Katie tells Salamence to dive forward and continue using the attack. Eventually the Protect breaks and blasts Swampert. Katie then orders a follow-up Dragon Claw. May calls for Swampert to quickly intercept with Ice Punch, shocking Katie. Both attacks land, with Salamence taking a much harder hit. Katie praises May for keeping Ice Punch a surprise up until now. Katie calls for another Dragon Breath, and May orders Mudshot to counter. Mudshot and Dragon Breath collide, creating a massive explosion. Wally and Brendan express their concern, since most of Swampert's attacks aren't a good match for Salamence. Ice Punch is her best hope. Tyson and Morrison say that they believe May will be able to come up with an idea to turn things around. Little did they know that May already had a plan. Katie tells Salamence to use Aerial Ace, and May and Swampert use Ice Punch. Katie then orders a close-range Hyper Beam to May's shock. The attack blasts Swampert back, dealing major damage. May calls out to her starter, who struggles to her feet. With Salamence needing to recharge, May takes the chance to execute her plan. She commands an Ice Punch, and Swampert goes in for the attack. Even though Salamence can't use a move, Katie orders the Pokemon to simply fly away to avoid the attack. Salamence takes the leap, but right as it does, May has Swampert use Muddy Water to propel herself airborne. This stuns everyone, including Salamence, and May follows up by having Swampert aim her Ice Punch at one of Salamence's wings. The giant dragon is struck and falls back onto the frozen pool, its wing now frozen solid. Katie tries to stay under control and commands a Dragon Breath, but Salamence simply uses Protect. Once again, Katie commands Salamence to keep up the attack until the Protect breaks. Eventually, Salamence's willpower pulls through, and his attack breaks through and hits Swampert for a hard hit. Swampert is doubled over in pain, struggling to move, so Katie goes in for the finishing blow. She orders another Hyper Beam. Salamence launches the attack, but at the last second, May orders Swampert to break the ice underneath them with Ice Punch, then head underwater. Swampert destroys a small portion of the ice, then dives into the pool, avoiding the attack within seconds. From here, Salamence can no longer see his opponent, nor can he even fly away to dodge an incoming attack. Katie tries to think of anything to avoid what's coming, but it's too late. May orders Swampert to resurface with an Ice Punch. The ice under Swampert soon cracks underneath his feet. He tries to move, but slips after taking a single step. Using all of her power, Swampert completely breaks through the ice to land a devastating Ice Punch to Salamence's stomach. The dragon is launched through the air and lands on his back in the center of the field. The referee calls the match in May's favor as Salamence is deemed unconscious and unable to battle. With this victory, May has won the entire Evergrande Conference. May rushes out to the field to embrace Swampert in a hug. The giant fish returns the hug, and the two are so happy that they don't even notice Katie approaching them. She returns Salamence, thanking him for a good battle, and then extends the same thanks to May. May likewise thanks her for giving her not only a great battle, but for being an amazing rival and friend to push her in this competition. The awards ceremony takes place, with May receiving her trophy and being crowned the winner of the Evergrande Conference. Brendan, Max, and Wally cheer enthusiastically the entire time, with Morrison, Tyson, and Katie happy as well. May is then told by the host, Mr. Goodshow, that she is now free to challenge Hoenn's Elite Four for the chance to battle the champion, Steven Stone, if she wishes. May thanks him, but surprises everyone as she says that she isn't sure if she wants to do that just yet. He tells her that it's no big deal. As the tournament winner, the offer is permanently open to her. She can challenge them whenever she wants, even if it's years down the line. May thanks the man and tells him that she'll keep that in mind. May, her friends, and league rivals have a dinner to celebrate May's victory. During dinner, they all discuss their future plans. Katie will be returning to Lily Cove to refine her skills for the next Evergrande Conference, which she plans to win this time. Tyson will go back to his hometown of Mauville City for a quick rest before heading to the Johto region. He wants to try out their Pokemon League after hearing so much about it from May. Morrison surprises everyone by saying that he wants to go to his term of Verdanturf to participate in an upcoming Pokemon contest. After being impressed by May's uses of contest strategies in the battle, he wants to learn some techniques of his own to improve his own battling. And speaking of contests, May asks what Wally plans to do, since he's already won Hoenn's Grand Festival and is a top coordinator. Wally says that even though he's won Hoenn's Grand Festival, he feels that his journey as a coordinator is far from over, and he wants to compete in more contests around the world. May asks if he'll go back to Kanto to enter some more of their contests, but Wally says that he actually wants to go to the Sinnoh region. He learned about the region in recent days, especially after hearing that this is the region Galator are commonly found in, and found out that contests have a huge presence in the region as well, so that's where he'll be heading. Brennan meanwhile says that over the course of his journey, he's learned that there are still so many Pokemon out there, and in his quest to catch them all, he wants to explore other regions. He'll be heading back to Kanto, since he wants to continue helping his father research Pokemon of that region. He also wants to go back to explore that Cerulean Cave and uncover the mystery of that place, since he wasn't able to on their first trip. Max becomes excited upon hearing this, as he wants to continue learning more about raising Pokemon, and he can't wait to see what new Pokemon his brother will catch. And of course, that leaves May. May says that she plans to return home to Pelberg. She wants to take some time to work with her Pokemon, and if she plans to ever battle the Elite Four, she wants no one other than her father to help train her. All of the trainers wish each other luck in their quests and plan to part ways in the morning. A few days later, May arrives home. She greets all of her Pokemon, who Birch had brought over from the lab a few days before she arrived. But another surprise awaits May, as a camera crew is already waiting for her, wanting an interview with her and all of her Pokemon. May is at first a bit shy, though her Pokemon are more than happy to rush up to the camera. But May thinks back to the interview she saw of Jimmy after the Silver Conference and remembers how much it inspired her to become a trainer, so she decides she should give her own as well. The interviewer asks May general questions on how it feels to be a league winner and what her plans are. Will she challenge the Elite Four? May says that before she started her journey, she felt that winning a league required her to catch a bunch of Pokemon in order to have enough Pokemon to work with for the league. But over the course of her journey, she realized that winning a league isn't determined by the amount of Pokemon one has, but on their skill level. She won not because she had a huge Pokemon team, but because she took the time to train them so well. As for whether she'll challenge the Elite Four, for right now she isn't too sure. After all, she never participated in the league because she wanted to battle the Elite Four. At first, she just wanted to prove that she could get further than the person she idolized. Then she just wanted to defeat her rival Katie. But no matter where she goes from here, she'll do it with the help of all the Pokemon she made friends with along the way. Okay everyone, that brings us to the end of this saga. So just like last time, let's go over the story so I can explain why I made the choices that I made. First off, our protagonist. I know exactly what you guys are thinking. You made May the protagonist over Brendan? Yeah, I did. This decision was made for a few reasons. One, the Hoenn Saga was actually the first saga in the anime where they finally started giving real attention to the female characters, giving them their own tangible goals and aspirations, with May being a coordinator as opposed to Misty, who literally sat in the background for most of the original series. Even in the Pokemon Adventures manga, the Red and Blue chapter and the first chunk of the Gold and Silver chapter actually were heavily focused on the stories of the male characters, but once Crystal rolled around, and especially moving toward the Ruby and Sapphire chapter, they really started to put more of a focus on the girls, which obviously coincided with the ability to actually finally play as a female character in Crystal. Sapphire was pretty much treated as an equal to Ruby right off the bat. And considering that as soon as Ash was replaced in real life, it was a girl who they put in the spotlight, I feel that it just makes sense to have May as the main character here. I feel like the staff might have felt more open to taking that leap, making a girl the protagonist, especially since I wrote Jimmy and Ash to be really similar, much like Red and Gold were in Adventures. I think that by the second saga without Ash and the third overall, they might have wanted a much more different feel, just like how in Adventures, Ruby was vastly different to Red and Gold and had a much more stereotypically feminine personality. So that's why I went with May as our main protagonist here. As for Brennan and Wally, I knew I wanted one of them to be a coordinator since it was a major quest in the anime, and of course a major feature in the Gen 3 games. And I decided it would be Wally because I just felt it fit his story better. Considering his whole story in the games and manga was that his parents thought it would be too dangerous for him to be a trainer with his health issues, I thought having him do contests would be sensible narrative-wise. And I'm sure that you noticed that I gave him a team to reference the contest categories. I literally kept bringing that up. I really liked how they did that with Ruby's team in Pokemon Adventures, but after reading that chapter, it made me realize how the contest categories were never mentioned in the anime, so I chose to incorporate them here. Now, I know that some people might be upset at Brendan literally just being Mr. Catch-em-all, but long story short, I gave him that role since Brendan is more of a blank slate. Since he's really just a casual rival in the games, when you know he's not the player character, of course, I figured that it made more sense to give him a more relaxed goal, so that's why he was mainly focusing on completing the Pokédex. I also felt that we should have a character who has the goal of filling the Pokédex since it is such a big thing in the games, and the anime really has never had characters who just want to fill their Pokédex. I think the first time we really saw that was Red in Pokemon Origins, so I thought I'd do that with Brendan here. Now, let's talk about the thing that I'm sure most people are screaming at me to address. May's team. You guys are probably saying, Sakura, you are such a hypocrite. You hated Ash's teams where he caught more than 5 Pokemon, but here you are giving May 12 Pokemon, you hypocrite. Okay guys, I've said this before and I will say it again. I have no issue with characters having larger or rotational teams. My main problem is when said teams have absolutely horrible screen time distribution between the party members. Ash's Unova team was literally Pikachu, the starters, and Scraggy 99% of the time, with the last slot being a toss-up between the other members. Palpitoad, Bulldor, and Unpheasant felt utterly wasted in my opinion. They barely ever showed up or did anything of note. I would have had no issue with this team, or Ash's Kanto team, if he would have actually rotated the Pokemon around and treated them equally, but the staff seemed to feel that the only Pokemon that mattered were Pikachu, the starters, and a couple others. I went out of my way to ensure that I was giving all of May's Pokemon split focus during this series. I literally made a chart on a sticky note to keep track of how many battles her Pokemon were getting, their number of wins, and so on. I changed some battles that I originally planned out to give more screen time. Part of the reason I had them go to Kanto was just to give some of May's Pokemon even more battles. And yeah, I can agree that I probably went a bit far, giving May 12 Pokemon when I could have easily stopped at 8 or something. But in my defense, Hoenn is easily the reason with most of my all-time favorite Pokemon, so if there was going to be any region where I gave a character lots of Pokemon, it was going to be this one. So I'll leave that up to you guys to let me know if I handled May's team well or not. I won't say it was good. In fact, I feel there were plenty of places I could have done better, but I will say that I think I managed their screen time better than Ash's Unova team. Oh, and I'm sure many people are wondering why I gave May Mudkip over Torchic, which she started with in the anime and is almost always associated with. And that is for one main reason, and it's the fact that I felt the Mudkip line never got that much attention in the show compared to the other two. I think many people can agree on that. So I thought it would be nice to create our own little universe where Mudkip got more screen time. Also, I just thought I would mix it up from the main show. I thought it would be kind of boring giving her the exact same starter, so I gave her Mudkip. Now, let's move on to May's goal. May's goal here, as I mentioned, was to make it farther in the Evergrande Conference than she made it in the Silver Conference. That was mainly to add a bit of continuity, but once again to also give her a tangible goal, which she actually succeeded in. Much like Jimmy, May's goal started out as one thing, then evolved into something else. Jimmy started out wanting to simply get back Elmstone and Totodile, but then it eventually transformed into him wanting to prove that he was a good trainer, strong enough to defeat his rival Sylveon in battle. May started out simply wanting to make it further in the league than her idol Jimmy, but as we got closer to the league itself, it became more about May wanting to surpass her new rival Katie. On that note, let's talk rivals. Hoenn was interesting in that Ash went through the whole saga without having really any rivals. It wasn't until the league where we actually had Ash focusing on some reoccurring rivals. I originally was going to do the same thing, but I wanted just a little bit of build-up between May and her league rival, so I added Katie a tad earlier in the story. I made the choice to introduce her at the PokeRinger competition, and then even brought her back in episode Rayquaza. And if you're curious, yes, this was originally going to be Tyson, since he was treated as the strongest rival in the show, but I don't know, I wanted a bit more focus on the girls for this story, so I made Katie the major rival for May. And by the way, y'all, no, I did not replace her Mischievous with Salamence just because Salamence is my favorite Pokemon, but because her Mischievous really didn't do much in the original battle, and I wanted to give her another Hoenn Pokemon. Plus, it actually matches her color scheme. I didn't even plan for that. Also, I'm sorry the final match in May's league ended so similarly to Jimmy's. You know, he won the league with a surprise Thunder Punch from his starter, and May won with Ice Punch from her starter, but that just felt like the most believable way for her to get the win, so I hope you guys don't mind. I also want to explain why I gave May that losing streak throughout the story in the beginning, and that's because I kind of wanted her journey, first of all, to be a bit different from Jimmy's, in that even though Jimmy knew he wasn't the best trainer and he was trying to become stronger, he still never really struggled in gym battles. I'm pretty sure he only really lost one, which was the battle against Morty the first time around, and I just thought that there could be a bit more with that. Like, you know, the journey just kind of felt too smooth, whereas I wanted May to really be, like, extremely overconfident off the bat because she thought she would be a great trainer because she'd been watching Jimmy on TV and all other types of trainers. She'd learned all these skills. She thought she was going to be this prodigy trainer, and her dad was also a gym leader. So I think I wanted an interesting story where May thought that she was all that, but she had to be, like, kind of knocked down. So that's why I gave her that losing streak where she would lose a few gym battles, and then she won one, and then she lost another one against her dad. And then from there, I had her go through that arc of, like, really trying to make sure that she didn't struggle with, or not struggle with, but have this overconfidence, because I always made it that the overconfidence was what caused her to lose. Whenever she felt overconfident in a battle, she would lose it. And then once she became level-headed, that's when she would actually win. I just thought that would be an interesting storyline to have her go through, again, different from Jimmy, because he really didn't lose too much. It was kind of ironic because he was really this super newbie Ricky trainer who didn't have really any experience, yet I never really had him lose. So I thought it would be interesting if the other way around, May felt like she was a bit more experienced and then she would be the one to have the losing streak. I just thought that would be pretty interesting and add more to May's story. Now, some people might think it was a bit much and it caused the story to drag a bit, which I can kind of agree. The story ended up being quite long, as we can tell, but I still liked it. I thought it was really cool and something that added to the story to separate her from Jimmy. As for some minor things, I put a big focus on double battles since they were introduced in this generation, so I thought this would be a pretty big deal, which is why I incorporated double performances and contests here, rather than waiting for Gen 4. And I guess I should explain why I introduced Pokemon gender differences here. Again, it was basically some early Gen 4 promo, since that happened in, real life. They did a bunch of Gen 4 promo in the Gen 3 anime, but instead of shoving a bunch of Sinnoh Pokemon in the show, I just decided to show off gender differences for older Pokemon as a way to introduce features that would debut in Diamond and Pearl. But with all that being said, this wraps up the Hoenn Saga of What If Ash Left After the Orange Islands. Tune in next time to see what the Sinnoh region may have looked like with a different main protagonist. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time. Thank you!